Thing last minute. Everyone is ready. So welcome. How is everybody doing?
I'm good.
Man.
Doing good.
Absolutely great. Okay,
I've been better.
day.
I've been better.
Amazing.
Wait,
Alright,
Top 10
Falnor,
weekend. to be honest.
Falnor, you been better?
I've been better.
Right
he's
here,
having a rough week, apparently. He's either winning or losing money, running through personal troubles, watching other people win and lose money. It's a roller coaster. Meanwhile, I just slept all day, so I'm having a great day so far.
I actually had a tornado.
GME party.
I actually had a tornado while I was sleeping come within 0.1 miles of where I was at. An actual tornado, and I slept right through it.
Today or the other day?
No, that was 2 days ago.
Oh, we're probably in this. You in Jacksonville?
Tallahassee.
Okay. Yeah, well, I had a warning over here.
All right. Anyway, welcome everyone. We just lost someone, but that's okay. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Hippy Dippy Recruitment Show. So the Hippy Dippy Roundtable is a roundtable hosted by Dylan Burns. This every Friday, 8 p.m. EST. This is the recruitment show. So this is like the process. Like if you're a content creator and you want to end up on the Hippy Dippy, which right now is doing great. Like we had Destiny just this Friday. We had some great other guests like Hutch, like Lecture Fan, like really like big content creator, Vosh, like whoever is in the political sphere right now. And it's only going to get better. So yeah, if you want to be on the show, join Dylan Burns' Discord. For the chat, !HDP. And yeah, you will get all the info and everything if you want to be on the show later. And real quick, we're going to start by everyone is going to introduce themselves. Before that, I just want to go over the rules real quick. So yeah, first of all, try to not talk over each other. If you see that like people are talking and you want to talk, raise your hand. I will point out to you. I will point out and basically like note you on Dylan Burns' notepad. He sent it to me personally. So yeah, I will note your name and I will try to give you the mic basically. Obviously, not you as shit. Like no B word. Like try to stay as polite and everything as possible. So you get 1 minute like opening statement, like per person. After that, you can like talk freely to each other, and you get closing statement at the end of the topic. The last time you can talk about like something is during the opening for the next statement. I don't think I forgot anything. So yeah, let's start by people introducing each themselves. CSP Cypher, let's start with you. How are you doing? What's up? Who are you?
Hey everybody, so glad to be here. My name is CSP Cypher. I am the host and moderator of the Crowdsource Politics podcast. We've been podcasting for about a year and some months now. Started off as a Facebook debate community and decided to do a podcast, and now we're on Twitch. Basically, I consider myself lib-left, more or less, but there's going to be some things that I agree with on here from the right side of the panel as well as the left side of the panel. So just glad to be here.
Awesome. Tom Fullery.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. My name's Tom. I go by Tom Foolery. I stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm mostly a conservative, postmodern, neo-Marxist. We do lots of debates, lots of current events. We do all sorts of shows and go on other people's shows and hang out with the chat. So come hang out with us on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube sometime.
Awesome. Falanoa.
Well, I'm Falinor. I guess I'm the Twitch resident capitalist. I do a lot of investments and wealth management, own several businesses. I don't really know what I am anymore after having just Googled what a neo-Marxist is. And then half the people I've met through these shows, I'm just I'm definitely not on the far right or the far left. And I'm also not a centrist. So I'm just an outsider looking in, I guess.
All right. All right. So this is the most controversial platforming I've did so far, but like Paula's World, who is a League player and also part of the future stream team. How are you doing?
I have to be honest, Geek. I stopped playing League a week after I start. I got it. Okay, so I've not been. I should not be deplatformed. I know, whatever, Geek. One time, like yada yada yada. I've changed. No, but thank you, Geek, for letting me on. I am a fellow member of Dylan Burns' The Future stream team. Very excited to be on here. 17. I've been doing politics on Twitch for a couple months now. I think I was on the first Hippy Dippy recruitment, and that was a lot of fun. That was a long time ago. Got some really cool people on there, so I'm very excited to be back. It's really cool to see a lot of new faces. I have been on the Hippy Dippy, but I do just enjoy coming out here, debating like new people, supporting Geek and Danabo. You know, like making sure that like a lot of bad talking points aren't like thrown out into the wind. So yeah.
Hell yeah. GKR.
Hey guys, I'm GKR. I'm finishing a master's in criminal justice. Got one class left. Very excited about that. So I make usually random videos on stuff that annoys me on my channel. You know, I'm always open to have a debate or a friendly conversation, whatever you want. You know, I give out what's put towards me. So we'll see. That's it. Keeping it short.
All right. The meme, the man, the legend, CTV. How are you doing?
Oh, he's not up.
Yeah, he's busy right now. He will be back with us in a sec. You're muted, buddy.
I had to make sure that I had the necessary medication on hand, right? So, with that being said, since it wasn't said earlier, I'll say it now. I am the Hippy Dippy conservative main boss. It doesn't matter if it's on Friday night or Sunday night. The reality is that nobody has made more appearances for the Hippy Dippy than this guy right here. And every time that I'm on the panel, everybody, and I mean everybody, always has a good time. If you don't have a good time, you might want to check yourself, right? So with that being said, I am looking forward tonight to having a discussion about the biggest idiot Democrats ever nominated. And who could that be? But our man Biden, right? So let's get into it.
Yeah, always happy to have you. Now we got a newcomer, Gammy, or Gammy, I don't know how to pronounce it. How are you doing?
Gammy, I'm good. Wow, that's a hard one to follow up. My name is Gami. I'd say I'm like lib left or social democrat. I'm just like a progressive Twitch streamer and YouTube content creator. I like politics. I'm a big Joe Biden fan. I think he's the best Democratic nominee in a long time. Definitely better than Trump, but yeah, I'm excited to argue.
Right. Phil KOE, can you hear us? I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I don't think he can hear anybody right now. I'm working with him on it.
All right. I guess we'll get back to Phil later. Also, real quick before I forgot. So yeah, basically, I'm Mr. Geek. I'm the host of this show, and the person in charge of the recruitment who's doing an amazing work behind the scene. And you should all follow is twitch.tv/Danabo, my co-host. How are you doing? And did I forget any rules?
I wasn't listening. Have a good time, everyone.
And that, folks, is Danabo, right? The man, the myth, the actual legend, right?
When are we gonna get Danabo on one of these panels, man? Are you serious?
True. We should.
No, you can't be the man, the myth, and the legend if you participate, right?
True. That's a good point, CTV.
Yeah.
Which side would I go on?
I don't know. That's a good question, Danabo.
Yeah.
Danabo, with the way you worded those topics, I'm thinking you're leaning one way in particular, my friend.
Danabo, low key Joe Biden.
All right. Yeah. So I think we're going to start until we get like Phil to be like OP and ready for the show. Like we're going to start. I will give Phil an intro later. But for real quick, I'm going to give my shout out to Phil because we saw so basically I hang out with Danabo like when I'm not streaming and everything. And Danabo raided into tomfoolery. And Tom Foolery had Phil on his show. And basically, Danabo and I were like, okay, we need this guy. He's got like awesome energy and everything. So I hope he will be like ready later. He will get his sound working. Can you hear us? Phil KOE? We cannot hear you, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
I just heard feedback coming from him, so something happened.
I don't think he has his microphone set right. It's not picking up at all.
Yeah.
You might have to go into his settings on Discord and just add his mic in as an input.
Yep.
Don't worry, Phil. You can come back at any time. You will get your intro and everything. But yeah, Phil got this awesome energy. So yeah, hope he'll get his mic working soon and everything. In the meantime, we're going to jump into the first topic, which is is Biden a hypocrite for mandating masks on federal property and not wearing one for photo ops? Also, one real quick rule that I forgot. During the opening and closing statement, you're not allowed to interrupt each other. It's a big no-no. So yeah, no matter how much you disagree, either address it in like your own opening statement, or if basically you go like before the person, addressing, in your closing statement, or address it like in the opening of the new one. Anyway, let's go into the first topic. Is Biden a hypocrite for mandating masks on federal property and not wearing one on photo ops? So we're going to start by Falanoa. Falano.
All right. Sorry. I don't know where to start with Biden and masks. I don't know where to start with masks in general. So one of my nonprofit projects I've been running for years now is a nonprofit foundation that specializes as a 501c4 for supporting other nonprofit projects. And one of those nonprofit projects is a project that I have is called gearsfordocs.org. So it's a project I created probably back in May, I would say. Was when we really jump-started it, when I started working with vendors like 3M and open source communities in general to help to start providing PPE and access to PPE-related data. And so masks in general, just they don't work. It's an unfortunate reality, but they're just not rated for it unless it's an N99 or N100 mask or a KN series equivalent. It just doesn't stop viruses. It's not what they're built for, and I don't see the average American buying a PAPR system that's $2,000 plus. And so masks in general, it's just for fear control and psychological effects. Outside of that, Joe Biden has said it, Fauci has said it, Johan Carlson has said it. These are all heads of medicines for multiple countries or current presidents, previous presidents, take your pick. I mean, the masks in general is just for people's mindsets, and that's the unfortunate reality. That being said, the psychological effects by themselves are important. And for some things like water droplet spreading, it does help to contain water droplets. But even the data sets from that is, I think they said 2.8 versus 3.1% reduction. And that's not really an effective enough ratio to put a cost equivalence of an entire global economy. And so Biden can do whatever he wants, mask, no mask. But if he's at least going to require the masks, he should at least wear one himself when he's in a federal building, if he's mandating it for federal buildings. And that's my entire piece.
All right. CSP Cypher.
Yeah. So is Biden a hypocrite for not wearing masks in federal buildings while requiring them? Of course he is. But honestly, no one really gives a crap about hypocrisy. It is only used as a political weapon against your opponent. The left doesn't have it as a first order principle, and the right doesn't have it as a first order principle either. If they can get a ding in, they're going to get a ding in. So I really don't care. Should he wear it for photo ops? Sure. But as far as this conversation is going to go, I don't think we're going to change anybody's mind.
All right. GKR.
Oh, whoops! I was already unmuted. Yeah, actually, my take's pretty similar to Cypher. Who gives a shit? You can argue it's bad optics. I mean, yeah, sure, because troglodytes are going to jump on it and just start complaining like, "Oh, he's not wearing what he wants to," and it's like, listen, Who cares? I go to theme parks. I'm a degenerate asshole, and I'm just saying you can go there and. When you're taking a picture, you can take your mask off for a second. It's okay. It's not going to kill you. Okay. It's probably not going to kill everybody. Wear your mask most of the time. Take it off if you want to take a picture. As the president, he probably shouldn't be doing that, but who cares? It doesn't matter. This is a completely unimportant issue, and it's the thing you talk about. You bang on the table when you have no actual things of substance to talk about. That's it.
All right. Gami?
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, he is a hypocrite for not wearing one in photo ops. I cringe basically every fucking time I see him in a photo without a mask on while surrounded by people. But I do support, he should definitely be doing it in the buildings if he's making it his law to do so. But I don't know. I just think he should start doing it optically, but it doesn't really matter. I basically agree with Cypher and GKR. I don't have much more to add to this one.
All right. CTV.
Wow. Straight out of the gate, I know who the enemy is. Right? So Cypher, GKR, and Gammy all are complete and utter hypocrites, because I would be damn sure that before the election that these three individuals would have been like, no, Trump, no, we got to have a mask. Oh my God, we got to have a mask. Right? And now they're like, Biden's the president, like, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? I mean,
Sure.
Corona's not that bad, right? Hypocrites! I got nothing for the three of you on this damn topic, right? Not philosophically consistent at all, right? To continue this topic would only be for you three to end up so tore up by the end of it that all you're going to be able to do is not sit down for a week, right? That's, man, hypocrites. So... Is Biden a hypocrite? You damn right he is, right? And I'm going to call it down the middle the same way that I was calling it down the middle before. So y'all have fun.
All right. Tom Fullery.
All right. Yeah. Is Biden a hypocrite for not wearing a mask? Yes, definitely. He should have worn the mask in the pictures. I think that's pretty obvious. And so far, sounds like everybody agrees with that. As far as Fallen talking about whether or not masks work, that's like a very broad statement. Like, what works? Like, if it helps, I think that's the goal, is whether or not it helps. It sounds like masks help, and I think in all, we wear masks because they help in general. So I don't think it's a matter of masks just make all COVID go away and that's it. Like, we all think that we're all COVID proof because we're wearing masks. Like, that, I don't think that's the case. You put on a mask, it helps in general. That's the point.
All right. Do we get Paula? Sorry.
Okay. Wow. There have been some things that have been said on here already that are already pretty fucking cringe. Okay. I have to say that out the gate. So we started out with basic forms of science denial. 1, 2. Secondly, I'm curious, who here has actually read the executive order put out by Biden? Can I get a hands up? Anyone? 1 or 2 people? So then you guys would know that this mask mandate already does allow for specific categorical exceptions when it comes to basics of what the heads of the federal departments can actually do. And when actually given the chances, it gives them executive authority to be able to make the decision of, hey, you can't you can wear a mask, you don't have to wear a mask, but you have to engage in larger social distancing procedures and have to stray further. The basic one that would come to mind is, can you eat on federal property? Does anyone know that right now? You know what I mean? You have to be able to take off your mask to eat, but that necessarily allows for the heads of those departments to make even more social distancing measures. So, to a certain extent, if you want to say that hey, if Biden is calling for everyone to wear a mask or yada yada yada, it's hypocritical. Honestly, it's pretty dumb, because in all honesty, I think most people haven't even read the executive order. 2, Biden does actually wear his mask in a lot of photo ops. It's not like he doesn't, right? It's actually very rare that he doesn't, only when he's speaking, which is for a valid reason, because he has to speak with a microphone. And secondly, I'd like to attack this goddamn masks don't work point unless they're cloth. That just isn't true, because all those studies that show that they're highly not effective, right, are on the basis of like healthcare workers who are in consistent high risk environments. And so we can actually specifically look at states that actually put in mask mandates. And even though a large majority of their people were wearing cloth masks, not only did it help like reduce the amount of infection, it actually did seem to be effective. Okay. So we have to kind of clear that one out of the gate. I don't want to have to make a first order decision to say that like, oh, masks are effective and then determine if they're hypothetical. Can we at least establish that people should be wearing cloth masks at minimum?
If I may, the ethereal voice,
Whoa.
the ethereal ghostly voice from behind. I know it's so creepy. There's a new ethereal voice joining the room. If I may, first of all, I am Phil KOE joining the room. I was not able to get my video. I'm in a small rural town of about 300 people here in Nebraska, so the double platform was a little more bandwidth, and I think the whole town's allowed. But I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you all for inviting me. I'm Phil KOE of KOE Nation on YouTube. Wonderful to be here. But I wanted to touch on the idea that whether or not masks work. I used to be very much a mask skeptic. I very much was. It was something I was like, oh, fuck. But it was a reasoned argument that changed my perspective on this. Now, if you think that masks don't work, what you need to do is take a match, put your mask on, strike the match, and if you can blow that match out with your mask on, then I'll give it to you that masks don't work. But if you can't, it might actually provide some help. So that's just my little take on that, folks. But yes, it's marvelous to be here. Thank you for joining y'all. You're going to be getting a ethereal voice from above occasionally invading this podcast, but it's all good.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll do with it. Yeah, so I guess y'all can engage.
All right, so the first thing I wanted to say is that all this talk about masks made me remember that I needed to conduct my COVID test today. So everybody ready? See, if you grab a nice cold beer, right? Yeah. If you can smell it, right, then you know that you're good there, right? And then you gotta. Wow, I'm COVID free. I love it.
You know what? CTV, honestly, for all the time that I've known you, your jokes have gotten a lot better. Not to be honest, you've improved a lot. I got to give that one to you.
Drinking Dalmore Scotch myself.
Yeah,
so right out of the gate, though, right, Polar, when you were talking about Biden and the actual executive order, what it says and allowing these exemptions, that certainly sounded like a situation for rules for thee, but not for me, right? Either the law applies equally to everybody, right?
It's rules for everybody. And yeah, it's rules for everybody. No, I assure you, the executive order is for everybody.
But not for me.
For everybody. It's for everybody. Definitely for everybody. I assure you.
Okay. Real quick. Don't talk all at once. Like raise your hand and everything. I will write your name and come back to you. So yeah, CTV, go ahead.
No, it's rules for thee and not for me. If you're spelling out exceptions for any person, any position, anything, period, then the law doesn't apply equally to everybody. Where do I see this kind of thing happen? In the fucking military, right? And that's because there's ranking associated with it. But if for everything outside of the military, it's supposed to be exactly even, right? Because we, the people, is the government. It's not like the government like gives us anything. Fuck that. Right? It's we the people. We are the ones that govern what they do. Period.
Whereby.
Okay. Paula, go ahead.
Okay. So if we're going to talk about the law, do you want to consider the executive order law then? CTV, it does apply to everyone, and there's specific like exemptions that are made in that law. It's not like the whole law is like federal mask mandate. Everyone on federal land that works for the federal government has to wear a mask. Like, it's not that simple. So even in that specific piece of legislation, that law, they make exemptions. So the law is applying to everyone. I just think that it's important that people read this before making like very strong positions on it.
This is a clipping issue. People are taking the headlines and clipping out what they want to hear from it rather than reading the actual law. Or the executive order, rather. I'm going to agree with Polar on this one. The exemptions apply to everybody. There's certain circumstances. I'm good.
If there's any circumstances where it's certain, like you just said, then it's rules for thee, not for me.
Nope. It applies to everybody on federal property, period. Everybody on federal property. It doesn't just apply to executive positions.
I didn't read it, but I'm nearly certain there's not a Joe Biden exception in the executive order. Like, it's not like this rule applies to everyone in America except Joe Biden. I didn't read it because I don't care that much, but
I guess maybe the next thing, look,
guarantee you it doesn't have the Joe Biden.
Right, but see, I guess maybe the next thing that we got to consider is that how effective are these masks? Should they be actually being federally mandated? Right, because
See, that's
at
a
this
different
point,
argument. That's a different argument that we're not debating.
Now listen, right? So listen. So here's the reality, right?
That's a
If we're going to sit here, if we are going to sit here and try to discuss, right, what's effective, then and trying to block stuff from getting out. I mean, at what point do you start looking at these logically and be like, well, do we really need to mandate, I don't know, women wearing Tampax because it'll help catch the blood?
That's a pivot. That's a pivot.
Wait, I want to throw it to Tom because he raised his hand, but yeah.
Yeah, Polars, I agree with you. Actually, I was coming up with the same point that, like, you know, you have to eat sometimes, or there are going to be other times where you have to take off your mask. But all in all, as far as optics go, and I think optics are important, especially when you're in a politician, you sign an executive order that says that you need to wear masks on federal property, and then you go take a bunch of pictures on federal property. It looked like he was with his family and like people that he's around on a normal basis, probably not wearing masks around them anyways. So I get it, like, I don't care. But as far as the optics go, yes, it looks very hypocritical, and it looks bad to not wear a mask right after signing a national mandate.
I want to throw it to Phil.
Oh, well, thank you, good sir. I found a workaround. Turns out these cell phones nowadays are more powerful than even our computers. So who'd ever thunk it? So, now, folks, again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. God bless y'all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I kiss you all 3 times and raise my glass to you. It's marvelous for you all to be here on the Hippy Dippy podcast. And what are you doing? Not liking, sharing, subscribing? Come on. You're leaving money on the table every minute you don't, folks. But now back to the actual subject at hand here. I made this argument for Donald Trump, and I will advance the same argument for Joe Biden. Joe Biden, or whoever the president of the United States is the mascot, cheerleader, and symbol of America. So that is a special case, special exemptions, and special. He wants to go about his day without wearing a mask, and everybody's around him is social distancing, masking, but he is making himself the symbol of America. That is his choice. Now, would it be better if he masked? Yes, but I'm not going to. There's a lot of things you could criticize the guy about. The fact that he took his mask off for a few minutes for a photo op as president of the United States, you know, I just can't work up the outrage. I'm sorry.
All right. I want to throw it to Fallon.
All right, is my turn?
Yeah.
Perfect. So that just proves that the mask and the microphone isn't an issue. All right. So next point.
Actually,
Y'all
slightly
saw
more
this.
muffled now, just so you know. Not proving
Yeah,
your
but that's
point
because I have a
particularly
shitty
well.
headset.
Oh, it's
It is.
proven.
But yeah,
Maybe Biden does too. He's got that $20 GameStop mic.
man, that dude's got a fucking. Don't even get me started on their tech. I
This is
used to
dumb
work with
comment.
Waka. That's way too expensive. But yeah, the next piece is to answer chat. When you can see the smoke leaving around my mask, that is the concern. So it's fact
no,
that
that's
mask
the
is
droplets
blocking.
are not the same as smoke.
No, they
Exactly.
are. They are.
No,
Those are moisture
no.
droplets
No, it's
that I'm
not.
breathing
No.
out.
It's not at all.
Yes,
You're
if
just factually wrong
VGPG
here.
convert. No, that's not. You look
Yeah,
up the
it is.
chemistry when VGPG converts with electrolysis.
Droplets are much thicker. They're
This
going
guy's
to-
actually suggesting that solids and liquids are the same. Or solids
They're
and
not.
gases,
When
or
it
liquids and gases
converts-
are
He's
the same
actually
thing.
not.
Incredible.
What he's
When it
actually
converts-
Please
talking about
just
is
continue
electrolysis.
to wear your mask as a troll. That you're
Yeah.
totally trolling us, dude.
Absolutely.
We're all pwned. I'm fucking
Absolutely.
pwned, man. Please, like,
Yeah.
you got me, man.
But
I'm fucking
skipping,
God.
so skipping past the basic chemistry for when you're blowing out water vapor from vaping, which is why they call
To
it
a cloth.
vaping as in vapor. Yes. The issue with the reason why N99, N100 masks are micron rated, which is what that N stands for, 99 to 100% of particulates over a specific micron size. So N95 is 5%. 5% will escape. 5% will get out. This is not an N95 mask. This is a surgical mask. It has no micron rating, which means there's no guarantee that it blocks anything. That's what that means. That's
What's
why
that?
they're 57 cents
Why
instead
do
of
surgeons
$55.
wear surgeon masks?
Why do 55% of all healthcare workers have COVID?
Is that
Answer the
true?
question of the question.
Yeah,
This-
that was
the
the
question
recent
was-
number published.
Why
That
does
was the
anyone
recent
wear a
number published.
surgical
Completely
mask if it
sidebar,
does nothing?
Yeah,
Before
it stops
COVID,
water
they
from
wore
spraying all over their faces,
Oh,
but it doesn't stop
Oh, that's
viral
right. Okay.
contaminants in water particulates. Water particulates that you can see are 40 microns or larger, but the air around you has 100% humidity. You don't see water in the air 100% of the time. That means the micron size of that is smaller than 40 microns. My
And
mask
there's
won't
some
stop 40
there's some
microns or
STDs
larger.
that are smaller than the hole in a rubber, but we still wear them. And it's still,
Yeah, you still wear them, but the thing is that it's the critical load level in the air that becomes a problem. That's why they just released that new data set for the study that says you have 10 minutes in a public area where you can go in and not have a large concern of becoming infected even with a mask on. But exceeding that 10-minute time frame threshold, you can still become infected even if you're social distancing at 6 feet, because they've proven that it can travel over 33 meters. And
Just a-
33
Can you link
meters
this?
is over
Because I
100
would-
feet.
Rick,
Yeah.
I want to.
I would like to see this. I
Yeah,
feel
I'll
like if you're
provide you all the
social distancing
resources.
and wearing the mask, it should be
It
fine longer
reduces your
than 10
risk.
minutes.
Yeah, it reduces your risk, but you can still become infected. That's why doctors are still getting it.
I
And
want
that-
to.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Real
I'll
quick,
drop
I
all the
want to throw
resources
it.
later. Go ahead, Geek.
I want to throw it to Paul as well, then Gammy after.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if we can determine that some masks are less effective than other ones, I can almost guarantee that having a mask, a surgical mask, in a high risk setting is much better than having no mask. Not
True.
only is this supported by empirical data, I don't know why you keep going back to this point. Like, even if you don't necessarily intend to look like a skeptic, you're looking like a very big skeptic right now. And it isn't like very optically useful. I would say that even when we engage in mask mandates, as I mentioned earlier, we've seen reduced amounts of COVID transmissions through putting on masks and putting on mask mandates. So even if cloth masks aren't as effective, I don't think anyone is going to disagree with you there. We should still encourage people to wear them because it reduces the risk. We're never going to get to the point where everyone can have an N95, right? Or maybe we can, but it's just too expensive. We're never going to get to the point where all COVID-19 transmission is going to be gone completely, right? What we can do is try our best to make sure that we can reduce it as much as possible. And that's the goal of this. We're never going to be able to stop the spread 100%, but we can do our best, and that's what matters.
Also, a quick reminder: this was not the topic. The topic is by the hypocrite, not are masks effective. Just putting that out
yes,
there.
but not on
Yeah.
yes, but not on this particular topic.
Thank you.
Yes, he's a hypocrite,
It's a-
but not about this particular thing. And
Oh, so I actually have another question. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Paula, and after that, Gammy.
Does anyone have the pictures from this photo op? I haven't seen them. I was just curious if someone could send that to me or put them into the group chat.
I
He's
think
about
there are a
28
few.
feet away. Yeah, he's about 28 feet away, allegedly, from the nearest person. But then people walk right up to him.
Cool. Now, I'll be
Can someone
honest.
send that?
Wait, real quick, Gammy, go ahead, and after that, Phil, if you want to go.
Oh, I wanted to say that Fallen's 55% of healthcare workers have contracted COVID. It's just completely bullshit. I Googled it and it's from an article in British Columbia, Canada from March of 2020, right near the beginning of the virus. So I don't know why we're citing this over almost a year old statistic when no one knew anything about the disease.
Go ahead.
You can never challenge the internet for too long because somebody from some corner of the internet's gonna be like, "Whoa, there's a statistic here." But now, Falanor, great guy. You seem like a wonderful guy. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of my own anecdote and personal story. I'm actually a farmer from out here in the middle of Nebraska, USA, and pollination is a big part of my my livelihood. And when you talk about how this water droplet went 37 feet, I'm sorry, come on, dude. I can't get the pollen to move 3 fucking rows sometimes. Come on. And so, yeah, I understand what you're saying, in the certain right wind conditions, maybe, but yeah, man, I've had a time where I can't get the pollen to move 2 feet, and I'm like, really? So like, now I understand we're talking two different things here a little bit, but I was just kind of chuckling myself, like, man, show me this 37-foot air vortex. There's days I'd give anything for it, but so just throwing a little bit of anecdote and a little bit of humorous skepticism your way, sir. But beyond that, I'll look forward to whoever's next.
All right, Cypher, go ahead.
I think you had Falinor wanted to go first, so I'll go after him.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick thing. So you're comparing outside to inside. My point is with recycled air base, which 80% of all internalized air is recycled. That's how critical load builds up. That's why being outside is important, and social distancing outside, and you can even walk around outside without masks on, because critical load will never build up because the air is constantly moving outside and blowing in directions, which changes literally with the wind. And so that's why it's safe to be outside in gatherings, and why they've allowed it as compared to inside with recycled air, because of HVAC based systems. They recycle the air, but unfortunately most people don't have inline sterilization systems with UVA, UVB, UVC based treatment.
Which
So
is
just
why
real quick,
opening
Wait, what about the
I thought it was gonna
55%
go.
statistic?
Can you just say that the masks help? Like that's because that's what I said earlier in my.
Oh, I did
opening
say
statement. All
the
that matters
masks
is
do
that they
help. They help psychologically for sure, and they stop
No,
water
no,
droplets.
Oh my
They help
God.
particulate
Anyway,
water droplets.
is it okay if I go?
Wait. Hold up. Cypher, Tom, and Phil.
So, anecdotally, if anybody here knows of people that suffer from seasonal allergies, you can ask them, and I'm sure they'll tell you that the mask has helped against their seasonal allergies. If it's helping against seasonal allergies, chances are it's helping against COVID-19. First point. Second point, as far as the HVAC systems going on and recycling air, yes, that's why critical load and staying indoors and partying and everything else like that tends to be worse and more risky than doing anything else. It also happens to be why opening schools without retrofitting these systems is stupid. But we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is Biden, is he a hypocrite or not? Everybody else on the panel has already agreed with this. No, half of us don't care. Well, I'd say about 3/4 of us don't care. And then we have two people pivoting in order to try to get the conversation onto whether or not COVID is actually serious or not. So we should probably just move on.
All right.
Right. So we already established before that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tom.
can go.
Okay, that was Tom, Phil, and Falano. So yeah.
Yeah,
But,
Phil. Then go ahead. I already said what I wanted to say.
Okay.
There's way too many nice
now,
people.
Falinor, just something I'm kind of curious about. You're saying that recycled air systems are a good way to bring up a viral load, and you get a lot more infections. If that was the case, then the studies that talk about how airline travel and we would have pretty much infections spread on almost every single airplane that there's been. So clearly you can have recycled air systems that are still safe. Now, I'm not saying that this is perfect, and I'm not saying we know everything. In about 10, 15 years, we're all going to look back on the shit that we were saying about this coronavirus and be like, holy shit, how did I ever say that? Who would ever fucking thought just taking your vitamin D vitamins would have been the whole, we don't know.
If only.
We'll find out what the fuck and ups and downs from it later. But I would just say that the idea that all recycled air is going to immediately bring up greater infections, we would be seeing greater infections from the increase in airline travel. So that's just the one counter I wanted to bring to you. And don't get me wrong, Falinor, I'm one of those people that always enjoys establishing first principles. How is it that we know what we think we know, other than we've only just been told it by everybody else? So it's always helpful and handy to establish first principles. And I yield back the balance of my time. God, I've always wanted to say that.
All right, Falano, and after that, CTV.
All right, to answer the two pieces here. So the first one is pollen size typically ranges between 10 and 200 microns.
Not
the average size. Yeah, well, just the two pieces here, but to answer Cypher, I think it's 10 to 200 microns versus 80 to 150 nanometers. Dramatic difference for viral versus pollen. And then Phil, to answer your question, they use foggers and inline sterilizers for aircraft, which is why they check you before you get on the plane. And then they sterilize the plane after each trip. But yeah, I totally agree. It's hypocritical. As everybody has said, it's hypocritical. Whether they work or not is irrelevant. If you require something to be used at work, just like I do with all my staff, if I require the dress code is black, I go to work wearing black because that's the dress code. And if I'm a leader and I issue that dress code, I should follow it because I'm the one who drafted it. And that's what leadership is following your own rules.
I just look damn
All
good
right.
in black, so that's why I go black.
CTV and then Cypher.
Yeah, so Biden was a hypocrite, Cypher, right? Nobody pivoted, right? The whole
No, you
reason
pivoted.
of moving
That's why
No,
we're
no, no,
talking about whether
the whole
COVID
reason
is true
the
or
whole
not.
reason for moving past that was because it was already addressed, right? So then we moved to the next point, right?
No,
so
you guys pivoted
I
because
I
you
understand-
argued
I-
against us.
Right. So when you keep talking, whenever I'm talking, you're only making the point for why we can't act like adults right here and have a damn conversation, right? So since I'm still talking, shut the fuck up, because whenever you're talking, I shut the fuck up, right? So we got this squared away now. So reality is that it was moving past the point. Welcome to the conversation and how these roundtables work, right? Because once the point is addressed, you move on to the next thing. You don't get the screen pivot, and then all of a sudden that's what it's all about. So was he a hypocrite? Absolutely he was a hypocrite, because everything that the left and the Democrats have been saying for the last year has been COVID this, COVID that, we got to wear masks, blah, blah, blah. You don't get to just throw up the party line now and say, well, we're not doing this. No, no, no. If it was serious then, it's serious now, right? The shit didn't change just because the 6th and the 20th happened, right? Period. End of discussion with that. And as far as what Falinor is talking about specifically, I served 9 years on Ohio-class submarines and definitely understand what it's like to control an underwater sealed environment. So everything he's absolutely saying is true, right? And I can tell you an anecdotal story myself about whenever we had this thing called the Black Death actually running around the boat, and it was absolutely horrible. I was able to dodge it for about 2 weeks. The longer the short of the story is that it ends with me running back to Shaft Alley in the XO asking me, hey, CTV, what portable extinguisher did you bring with you? And I said, well, I didn't, sir. And he goes, well, why is that? And I said, I'm sorry, sir. I was sitting on the shitter with my ass on fire. Right? So, lots of fun. The story you can check out in the Wolf's Den later. I'll be telling that the full story there, but that's how it ends. There's the punchline.
All right.
Sometimes.
Who wants to go next?
So
I forgot.
CTV, yeah, it was.
Yeah, Cypher. Yeah.
So CTV, we don't agree on how hypocritical it is, though. I know you just walked by, so I'll just address this everything. So we don't agree how hypocritical this is, because some of the people here have read the executive order and others have not. So the executive order essentially says that there are certain times, not people, that can make decision where you can and don't have, where you have to and don't have to wear a mask. If those exceptions are basically for everybody that is on federal property, there's really no hypocrisy here. But to agree with people about optics, tomfoolery, you've brought this up multiple times, I do agree that it is optically stupid because people aren't paying attention as closely as the people on this panel tend to do, because not everybody's a political head like the rest of us. And with that, I yield.
And sorry, this will be quick, I guess, but like CTV, you talking about it like Biden was walking around no mask the whole time, spitting on federal agents. He took it off for a picture. We have a before when he's wearing the mask. He took a picture with the mask, took the mask off, took another picture, and put the mask back on, and ostensibly walked away and did something. Okay, taking your mask off for a picture, not the end of the world.
All right.
Should not have
go
done it,
ahead.
sure.
You're muted, by the way.
Come on, man.
Oh, can
It's literally the meme for the
someone
next
link
4
the
years.
picture?
Every time I hear that from the left, it's going to be, come on, man.
Can someone actually like, link?
My hot
Can
take,
someone
Corn
link
Pop
the
was
picture,
a good dude.
please? Because I specifically looked for this picture multiple times. Are you guys talking about the one in front of the Lincoln Memorial? Are you talking about the one with Hillary Clinton? Like, which one are we talking about?
I thought the Lincoln Memorial one.
Yeah.
Is Lincoln
Because
Memorial
if you-
indoors or outdoors? I actually don't know. I
It's
tried
indoor,
looking at a
outdoor, and
picture.
you can actually,
Oh, okay.
yeah, even in the Lincoln Memorial, like they take you. You're right. Like they take them off and put them directly back on, and we have the before and after pictures. Like you're completely right. If we like, if you want to consider this somewhat like hypocritical, if you want to put it on that point where he's like, oh, he took it off for a photo and then you can see Sam Rivers directly putting it like back on right after. I mean, like, sure, but I don't know if we can like use that same standard for when it comes to like a past president. We just didn't use it, right? Like, I think it's a very big difference.
He actively mocked Joe Biden in a debate about how big his mask was, and then got COVID the next day. Actually,
Biggest mask I've ever seen.
All right, Falanoa, go ahead. Falanoa, go ahead, and after that, Phil.
Yeah.
And
In all fairness to Polar's point, and I think this is a fair point, the Lincoln Memorial is actually an open infrastructure. So there's massive openings on a corridor-based design where it's pillar-based, colonial style. So the Lincoln, a lot of people think the Lincoln Memorial is some enclosed building. It's not. And so you could very easily make the argument that it's actually outdoors. It's just like going out under a carport, except it's made of concrete and stone. So it's very, very, very open with massive airflow. So it would be the equivalent of being outside in the middle of a field almost.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, it's like I said, for me, it's the fact that the Lincoln Memorial is itself a federal location. And that's just, yeah.
But didn't we already establish that the executive order itself allows for exceptions to this rule? Like how Polar said, like if you're eating, you can take off briefly. I don't know why it's such a big deal that he did on federal property when he was, by all accounts, quickly took it off and put it right back on.
I just imagine like they're in the White House and there's conservatives just like, I bet Joe Biden doesn't wear a mask while fucking his wife or something.
real quick, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Phil, go ahead, and after that, CTV.
You know, I am wondering how long we're going to, I believe it was GKR that said, like, I am wondering how long it's going to be till people are actually engaging in fornication while wearing their masks. Like, I'm wondering how far off we are from that.
That's a new fetish 30 years from now, you know? Like, people are going to be like, let's
also
pandemic role play.
In keeping with the Lincoln Memorial, I'm really wondering how far off we are until they actually put a little mask on the Lincoln Memorial and like the Jefferson Memorial and all the statues, they actually put a mask on them.
I'm surprised leftists haven't done that already.
Don't
tempt me.
Don't give them ideas. But now, actually, this is kind of funny when you mentioned when Trump got COVID. I actually mentioned this months before that happened over at the Dog and Chicken show. You can actually check it out. I made this prediction on that show, and I said this: if the headline can be confirmed, Donald Trump has COVID, and it's confirmed by the White House. I said, take a line in Vegas and put every dollar you got on Biden. And unfortunately, that turned out to be true. I didn't know how right I was, and then Trump gets COVID, and I'm like, oh boy, this is going to get interesting. Let's see what happens here. Kellyanne McEnany, God bless you. Like, my God, you're still going out and fighting that fight. I got to give you credit. But yeah, that was one of those that when I actually saw the day happen, I was like, maybe I should call Vegas.
I put my bet in, okay, and I made a nice $400 on that. Hell yeah!
Good for you, sir. Good for you. Presidential betting is always kind of weird. Like I always find it funny that town is so ice cold. I'm shocked they don't have a line on just about everything.
For the record, I slept like a baby on Tuesday. When everyone's like, "Oh, Biden lose," I'm like, "I'm sleeping like a baby. I'm fine. My money checks cashed like a month ago. We're good."
Did they delay getting you your check back? I'm just curious. Did they delay getting you your check?
Yeah, they did for like a little bit. I got it like mid-December. I got it before the Electoral College, man. I think I got it like, or maybe it's late November. It was like November like 25th, I think I got it. I think I got it before Thanksgiving or something.
All right. I want to throw it to CTV. And yeah.
Well, I got a question here. Tara Reid have her day in court?
No, because she didn't have an accurate story.
Oh, no accurate story, huh?
Yep.
I have no idea. Somebody in chat asked me to ask that, so I was like, sure, why not? So
That's
there's
kind
that.
of how it
right?
works.
I don't want to
Reid
get
didn't
you
actually
like,
press to answer your question. Tara Reid didn't actually press any charges that would have gone to court because her story was faulty. That's why we say her story is faulty. When she when she brought it to the DC police in order to go after Biden, she didn't refer to Biden by name. And the reason that she didn't do that is because if it was found out if she was lying, she would have been able to be charged criminally for lying about a crime being committed.
okay, so the thing that I really wanted to get back to was GKR, not knowing whether or not the Lincoln Memorial was indoors or outdoors. Did anybody else not know whether or not it was indoor or outdoors?
I looked at pictures of it. I've just never been to it.
I've
It
never
looked
been.
like it was the open air
Never
thing.
been.
Yeah.
Oh,
I might have
really?
when I was like 12. I don't know.
I think I went one time 10 years ago, but I don't remember it. I remember going to the Washington Memorial, but I just don't remember. I don't
Like
never
nobody
been to
else
DC.
watched Forrest Gump. Nobody else watched Forrest Gump.
No.
I mean, you
I
guys
know you're
look.
dating
There's so
yourself
many
here.
fucking movies where the Lincoln Memorial is like right there for you to see.
Yeah,
This
Fort
big
Mount
ass
Lincoln.
motherfucker
Yeah.
is not a stone
And
statue.
I thought it was
from
outside. Then I
outside where
see
it's
it's
a pool.
enclosed. Yeah,
Right?
I see
I
it's
did see
enclosed.
the
I don't know
Planet of
what's
the
over it.
Apes
How do you
remake.
not know this?
For the Planet of the Apes remake where the
I don't
Lincoln
know.
Memorial was kind of outside. I did see that one time.
I'm just,
All right.
I don't CTV. I just don't think our. Oh, sorry, Geek.
Yeah, I want to throw it to Phil, and after that, Gami. And if you want,
I gotta say,
Wait,
the Lincoln
why me?
Memorial has always been inside, and I've been to it a million times, and you're all un-American and unbased for not visiting me yet. Okay, goodbye.
Oh,
I was like, where did that just come from? Who?
that was Dylan. but-
Love you, Dylan.
all of these
Oh.
flavors, and you choose to be salty. Wow. But yeah, I'm from Nebraska. I rarely go east of the Mississippi River, let alone the Missouri. So that's like I would love to go see DC sometime. It'd be beautiful, but I've just never made it up there. I've even got some family up there, but they come back this way rather than me up there. But in regards to like whether we're talking about Biden's accusers or anybody's accusers, the thing that you always have to keep in mind is when there isn't anything objective or measurable, what you're talking about is something that's not only unknown, but also unknowable. So when you're dealing with something that's unknowable, there's no way for us to, like, if we had the Back to the Future machine and we could go back to, like, then we would have a whole different ball of wax. But we're dealing with things that are unknown and unknowable. So I don't know. Like, I have to give it the skepticism it's due, but I yield back.
All right, Gami.
I didn't raise my hand. I'm not sure why you called on me.
Never mind. Okay, Paula.
I just like to say I do not understand why we're going over the Tara Reid accusations right now. This just seems like a conversation that doesn't need to be had. I didn't know
That's
that
politics.
Tara Reid was in the executive order and Biden called her out by name or something. But to be honest, I think we've kind of like really gotten to this point. I'm actually curious to hear if there's any more contentions on this aspect. I don't necessarily see it as hypocritical. We've already gone over the Lincoln Memorial point, about how you specifically put it on and put it back on. How, for example, the executive order gives executive authority to the heads of those departments to be able to to be able to take off masks temporarily. But then you have to engage in even greater social distancing measures. They're called like assistant or adequate, like other measures that have to be taken. And I mean, they did that in this photo. If we want to talk about the optics of this, though, optically, if you want to say there's like a little bit of a negative hit, sure, but I do think the fact that Biden put it on right after and they had before and after pics, as well as the fact that like Biden continuously wears his like masks in photo ops like a lot, in the sense like he'll walk up to the podium wearing a mask consistently wears it. I just don't know if the American public cares about as much as like this in comparison to like when you have a president that literally just thought it was stupid and would make fun of other candidates for wearing it. I mean, I don't know.
Real quick, I want to throw it to Phil. I will throw it to you, Gami, after. And after that, I think we'll go into a closing statement.
Okay, cool. One thing I did want to say in this regard is this is another one of those instances where the left is eating its own tail, where you have Joe Biden. Joe Biden, of all people, we're saying you don't wear your mask enough, Joe Biden. And like, so this is a big problem for the left, and it's going to be a huge problem for the left going forward for decades to come. And it's that those on the left want to hold everyone to an unattainable platonic standard of perfection. And to the extent that you fall short of this unattainable standard of perfection will be the club that they use to beat you over the head with and try to push you out of public life. And that will be a very big problem.
Who on the left complained to Joe Biden for this? This is just
everybody's giving Biden shit about the mask. This is mostly a what's the word I'm trying to look for? This is more of a leftist phenomenon of what the fuck are you not doing wearing your mask? So
I could be wrong, but the left-leaning people here also
see heavy condemnation from the right. It's just not.
These are these are Fox News like hit pieces. These are not the left getting onto him for or canceling him for not wearing the mask. This is right wing, like, let me just cherry pick as little information as possible and put it out, and then I know my viewers are never going to go double check any of it or see if he wore a mask before or after or see what the actual mask mandate said. So we're just going to put it out and make Joe Biden look as though he's hypocritical, but like in reality I don't think there's anybody on the left who cares about this, because you can see he's buying.
Wait. Sorry, I want to throw it to Gami, and maybe after that we'll go into closing statement. So yeah.
I'd like to just add that unlike Trump, who called the pandemic a hoax, talked about injecting bleach or using hydroxychloroquine or whatever that drug he pushed at the beginning was, which was later found to be false. Biden hasn't been pushing false narratives about this disease, which has taken nearly 500,000 Americans' lives, nor has he been. I remember watching a press briefing where Trump told a reporter he wouldn't answer his question if he didn't take off his mask. Biden has done none of that, and to think that they're any way comparable is just foolish. That's all I have to say.
All right. Let's go into closing statement. Falanoa, just so you know, your cam is blank for me. I just like a black square, so yeah. Don't know if it's your way to supporting, but no. I'm going to make that joke.
Black Lives Matter.
Sorry. All right, let's start by...
well done.
Let's start by Paula's world.
So I have to be honest, I didn't even know about this until Danbo sent out the topics. I'd actually never even seen this photo till actually till the debate actually started, so I was curious to see what people were talking about. But this turned out to be a topic that I think Tom said it, that was very heavily pushed by the right. And it's funny because I the more that I looked into it actually looked like there was the initial pictures of the Lincoln Memorial and then the Biden and his family there. And then afterwards they had the before and after pics come out. And then they started to retract their measures, which I thought was really funny. It's also really interesting to see that a lot of people just had not read the executive order and would literally just go off the headline. And then lastly, talking about the optics of it. The optics of this, the fact that the majority of people, I can almost bet, did not know about this. I didn't know about this. The majority of the left didn't know about this. I don't know if Biden's going to take an optic hit from this, only because he's consistently wearing a mask in almost every other thing that he does. So, I mean, I thought this is a pretty funny topic. Oh yeah, all the COVID mask denial stuff, that's really cringe, and we probably shouldn't do that, to be honest.
All right, GKL.
Okay, so I think it was all right. So the whole point of this, and the reason why I was complaining about this as a topic, is because the whole point of this is to waste our fucking time. Okay, this is a conservative tactic. We're going to complain about things that no one gives a shit. Oh, Obama wore a tan suit. Oh, he put Dijon mustard in a hamburger. That's un-American. That's literally the whole point of this. It's to waste our time. So I'm spending an hour talking about Joe Biden for taking a off 4 seconds instead of talking about an increase in minimum wage, a $2 billion stimulus, or the DC statehood, or any of the various other issues that are monumentally more important to every single American in this country. Instead, I'm talking about is Joe Biden a hypocrite for wearing a mask? It's just vaguely gesturing at hypocrisy to waste our time, because time. This is the fundamental thing about the failure of the marketplace of ideas, okay? Time is a finite resource. The time you spend arguing about bullshit is the time you don't spend arguing about things that matter. This is the entire conservative strategy. That's why they always argue about wedge issues and other bullshit that doesn't matter, because they don't want things to change. And the more time they have you arguing about abortion, gun rights, and all this other nonsense, is the time you spend not getting things that matter. That's it.
All right. Cypher.
Yeah, so I will say that maybe Biden takes an optical hit for this because it is a somewhat hypocritical stance, even though everybody on this panel knows that it's not. Well, everybody on this panel agrees that it is to some extent, but not really as big as a deal as people make it out to be. Nobody's reading into this as more than a headline or seeing a couple of photos, and they're going to go scratch their head and be like, "Oh yeah, well that was pretty hypocritical." So, but as far as GKR stated about things like not mattering, yeah, I'll agree with that as well. But I don't really see any big super issue with this. I don't think it's going to end up being anything in 2 weeks.
All right, Tom.
I'm pretty much gonna stick with my opening statement. I think that as far as optics go, I think that they could have looked forward and known that this was going to be a thing. I don't know how you deal with that though, to just say like, well, just don't take pictures, because you're not going to take pictures with a freaking mask on like that. That kind of defeats the purpose of taking a picture if you don't know who you're taking a picture of. So I think all of the people on here who believe masks work understand that in this scenario, there's nothing really in danger here. There wasn't really any sort of problem. But yeah, I just think overall they probably could have seen this coming, and it wasn't. As it's been said, it wasn't a big story anyways. I didn't know about this until it was a topic on here, and then I had to go find someone who was talking about it. So yeah, I don't think it's even if they did look ahead and see that this was a problem, it didn't turn into a big enough problem for them to care anyway. So
all right, Gami.
Wear a mask. That's my end statement.
Okay, short and to the point. Phil.
Folks, this is one of those moments where we can all take a lesson from the carpenter from the plains of Galilee. May he who is without sin cast the first stone. We have all broken the rules about did we wear the mask right? Did we do it proper? Oh, we had it hanging on our nose. We had it hanging on our chin. Oh, fuck it. I'm just running in here without my mask. Oh, shit. Did I not sanitize my... We have all broken these ridiculously stacked rules that have been stacked upon us a lot. We've all done it. Every one of us are guilty. So again, I say may he or she who is without sin cast the first stone. And I yield back.
Amazing. CTV.
And I'm so glad I get to go after that truth bomb that just got dropped on everybody, right? So, was he a hypocrite? Absolutely was a hypocrite. Anybody and since I didn't know much about Tara Reid to begin with, I'll close out finishing up what I was able to learn in the last 15 minutes, right? She first came forward with her sexual allegation against Biden in interviews and I'm reading a fucking CNN or news article right now, so don't tell me what the fuck I'm reading. Right, guys?
This is my favorite pivot of all time.
And this is my closing statement right here. So shut your fucking mouth.
Okay.
Right?
Stop. I'm sorry. We don't interrupt during closing statement. If you want to address it, you feel free to do it during the opening. For the next one, this is the last time you'll be able to do it. Go ahead, CTV.
Jesus. Somebody put a muzzle on that dog down there. Right? All right. So she first came forward with her sexual allegation against Biden in interviews in recent weeks with multiple media outlets, including CNN. Retold CNN that in 1993, when she was working as an aide in Biden's Senate office, she was agreed to ask to deliver a duffel bag to the then Delaware senator in a corridor somewhere in the Capitol Hill complex. Reid said Biden had me up against the wall, used his knee to spread open my legs to put his fingers inside of me. Right. So everybody on the left would definitely be on that hashtag Me Too movement. And then all of a sudden you just don't agree, right, with her characterization because it's against your politician. Inherent bias right there from the fucking start. Right. So everything after that, especially when I can point to all the hypocrisy when it comes to mask wearing, lets me know that the individuals that are on the left are just going to be completely disingenuous if they want to just discredit the fucking story from the start. Now, you might be able to sit there and argue that there's not a legal case to be made for it, right? Because there's no witnesses, and it's just he said, she said, one against the other. But for you to just come out categorically and just say, well, there's no merit to it at all, and fuck her, and blah, 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 you know what? And just throw it in the same fucking pile when it comes to the mask wearing and all the other fucking hypocrisy that I see. And it's all a bunch of bullshit, and I'm kind of tired of even having conversations with people that don't even bother being genuine, because you wouldn't even be the type of people that would be agreeing with Phil, right? That all of us have broken all these fucking rules, and that's where I would say, does it really need to be fucking law if everybody is fucking breaking it, right? And that's the reality. If it's fucking law, you shouldn't be breaking it at all. So right there's your fucking truth bomb to add to that one, and I hope the shit just blew up in a fucking nuclear explosion in the next topic. You got nothing to say.
All right. Fernando, sorry.
All right, I guess I'm the voice of reason here. Wear a mask, specifically one that's rated for protection. All sexual assault victims have a right to post their case. Whether or not it's processed in legal terms is another story. It does compare relatively to Brett Kavanaugh and his situation, given the massive time span. Yeah, I think Biden was a hypocrite. I don't think it matters in the grand scheme. Like Phil said, everybody breaks the rules. More importantly for me, it's the fact that he broke his own rule. Maybe there were exceptions like Polar's brought up and Gammy brought up, and that's fine. If he followed his own rule to the T, then that's fine. But for me, I think that he has much bigger optics issues than wearing a mask in a picture during a photo op. So I don't think that this is his biggest concern or even remotely close right now. I think he's eating more ammo right now from terrorists getting vaccines before American citizens.
All right. Yeah, so real quick before we jump to the next topic, I just want to remind a few things. First one, if you want to address something that has been said, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to do a Biden. So if you want to address something that has been said in the closing statement, the last chance to do it is during the opening of the first one. After that, we move on. The other thing I want to remind is basically Hippy Dippy podcast. Hippy Dippy Roundtable. Sorry, we rebranded recently. Every Friday, 8 p.m. EST. Tune in twitch.tv/DylanBurnsTV. And yeah, if you want to be on the show, join Dylan Burns Discord. There's a channel called Hippy Dippy Recruitment. You can leave a message here. Either me or Danabo will get back to you, basically, and yeah, you can be here on this show with us. And yeah, so let's jump into the next topic, which is will the Biden stimulus crush the economy, and who will pay for it? And we're going to start with Tom.
I mean, I think this was about whether or not the stimulus was going to crash the economy, and I don't know how that is even possible. Like I've been looking for it everywhere. I've talked to economists. I've talked to a lot of people. I don't understand. Maybe it'll hurt the middle class somewhat, but to crash the economy is a bit of a stretch. I don't even know why we'd call it a stimulus anymore at that point if it's not actually stimulating the economy. But I think the stimulus plan, from what I've seen, is good, and I have no issues with it.
I don't know if you can see me.
I can.
It looks like on the stream you went offline.
Oh.
I can see you.
Wait, hold up. I got a little bit of a problem. Technical difficulty right now.
Streaming offline, but we can still hear you, and everyone's still live on my channel. But just so you don't say anything.
Yeah, just on mine too. Stream.
Hey everybody, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties if you're watching this on the Crowdsourced Politics podcast channel. We are going to be fixing this shortly. Hopefully we don't have any issues.
All of my screen went black.
Oh no.
I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the computer right now. And yeah, I'll be right back. If you can send a message to my chat, Danabo, to say to people, the show will be right back.
Who do you want us to send it?
Danabo, my co-host.
Oh.
All right, be right back.
I messaged the Twitch chat and said they were working on getting it back.
Oh, good.
All right, well,
So I guess in the meantime,
go
we
In
can
the
go back
interim,
to
I
GameStop,
just
right?
in the interim, I want to argue about the Tara Reid thing, but
I think we should just ignore that. But Critical Thinking Veteran CTV, if you want to debate that issue, I'm more
You
than
guys
happy to debate
should.
it with you. On your channel or mine, we can talk about the ins and outs of
Ooh.
that kind of hypocrisy, and I'm more than okay with that.
not
But
hypocrisy.
he's got us muted. so.
I think he's talking
we can't
to
hear
his
you.
channel.
CTV.
Yeah, he's talking.
No, he's talking to his channel right now.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, my biggest thing is this: is as someone who's been through that as a survivor, I think that everyone has a right to tell their story. Where that goes and how far it goes, I think that's left up to the courts and due process, which I'm an
Yeah.
avid champion of.
I agree.
That's
Yeah,
the conflation I was having an issue with CTV. Like, just because like some claims are found to be meritless, one doesn't mean you don't believe survivors. You don't get them therapy, get them help, give them moral support. It doesn't mean you don't do any of that. It means when the claims can't be vetted, not because they're not necessarily true, maybe because it happened 30 years ago and there's just no witnesses to that. That happens, and you can feel bad. You can pity the person. You give them all the moral support and the help that they need, and that's it. That's what you do, and then no criminal charges get pressed or whatever. And
Oh, hi. You're back.
nothing hypocritical about it.
enough about that rapscallion ne'er-do-well who runs this. Oh, hey! Welcome back, man. Nice to see you.
It's a mutiny.
Falinor, to your point, there was just the broad version of the left believed her and wanted it investigated, and then as time went on,
I know.
their story
Yeah,
changed
I'm
and stuff
aware.
like that. Okay.
Yeah. There was a lot of weird things that happened about it that led to people being disbelieving of it or other things. And my thing is this: is I find it 100% unacceptable and despicable that someone would lie about something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quick, just so you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I'm back. Just so you know, I'm live. I just press live again. Give me just a sec to re-put everything together.
Alright.
Yeah, no problem. We're on the same page, Falinor, then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I openly support victims, and I have two projects just for that. We actually help sexually exploited women and children and spouses and children to escape their abusers. I was actually my very first alpha for that. She was a person that was being extorted by her ex-husband. Yeah. For money for the kids for food in exchange for sex. And I was so happy when I actually got to be the witness to their divorce papers when I helped her get them filed. It was the best feeling in my life, and she was the first one of many.
All right. So we're back live. Sorry for that. I don't know what happened. All of my screen went black at the same time. I couldn't see anyone. I could still hear everyone, but yeah, so yeah, we're back. Sorry about this little break, but it was cool. It was between two topics. So, who was left basically to introduce? We were doing opening statement for.
I think Tom went, and then everything cut out. So I think that's where we were.
Yeah, you didn't choose who went next.
All right. So who didn't go for the opening statement?
Everybody except for me.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to throw it to Gami. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So we're answering the stimulus question.
Yeah. Will the Biden stimulus crash the economy, and who will pay for it?
Well, the same people who paid for the first one will pay for it. I don't know if that's part of the question, but no, it won't. It will not crash the economy. The first one didn't crash the economy. this income is going to stimulate the economy. A lot of Americans have jobs or are working less hours because of the pandemic, and are going to spend this money either on rent, groceries, food, even luxury items like video games still stimulate the economy and help people with jobs. We have 30 to 40 million Americans at risk of eviction due to financial issues originating from the pandemic, and this is going to affect people of color, disabled people, LGBT, and other marginalized groups. And so this stimulus can really help a lot of people who need it, which is why I support it.
All right. I'm going to throw it to Phil.
The stimulus, it's probably one of the top 3 discussions of our era. COVID, vaccine, stimulus. Those are the 3 big ones. And what happened when we had the big crash, I'll never forget it. For those who don't know, Interstate 80 goes through Nebraska, and it's what connects the east and west coasts of our country in terms of shipping. And what happened during that time was our interstates and our highways were empty. There was a complete destruction of demand, the likes of which we have never had in human history. So the first stimulus helped, but it wasn't enough. The second one, sure as shit, wasn't even close, but I'm sure glad that we helped everybody else except the fucking American people with that one. That was marvelous. The third one, it would be nice if, help some of the folks out that actually need it. That would be marvelous. In terms of will it crash the economy? When we're under a fiat money inflation system that we have now, I don't really see, that doesn't really stop until we get to hyperinflation. So I get what we're saying, but and to any conservatives in the audience, you have no idea how painful it was for me to say. When I said this about 9 months ago, it hurt, but I had to say it. Sing it loud and sing it proud. We're all Keynesians now. And so, that's the way of the world now.
That's true.
We had a Republican president and a Republican Senate trying to give universal basic income to people. I never thought I'd live to see the fucking day. Never thought it. So this COVID thing turned all politics topsy-turvy, turned everything anybody knew about the economy on its head. Hell, last summer oil was trading in negative $34 fucking dollars, people. We don't even know how close we were to the precipice. And we've been able to claw ourselves back. We should all be quite thankful and grateful for it. The next stimulus, each stimulus is going to have a diminishing return. There's going to be less and less good that we get from each stimulus. So eventually we're going to have to find a way to undo the destruction of demand. How we do that, we shall see. I certainly hope Joe Biden is successful. It remains to be seen. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Amazing. Let's try to Paula.
I've seen no evidence to show that this stimulus plan is going to crash the economy. So curious to see if anyone actually has data on that. There's actually one critique that I'll actually make of that, of the current stimulus plan, is that you probably shouldn't be giving out checks to people who make above $78,000. The way that we look at stimulus is that we want to be able to stimulate parts of the economy that aren't in a good position. And it just seems like people above, it looked like actually from the last stimulus, that people who made above $78,000 a year just saved the majority of it. They actually spent about 0.7% in comparison to spending only grew about 0.7% for families and people who made above that. And then if you want to look at people under 48,000, their spending increased by 20%, which is a lot, to be honest. So I think we're wasting some money that could be used in more effective places by spending it on people who already have the most cash in their lifetimes. Just something that's coming out frequently is that richer individuals have some of the most cash on hand that we've seen in a very long time. But generally, I think this is a positive thing. Brookings Institute has come out and talked about how with the available information now, this stimulus package is expected to get us on a pre-COVID economy that was expected by 2022. Sorry, the the estimates for a pre-COVID economy. So if we didn't have coronavirus, that's where we would be. So I mean, without the stimulus, it looks like we're in a much worse position. GDP is going to go down a lot. Not only that, we don't want to like leave some of our most affected individuals in the dust for like another couple months. So I mean, I'm just curious to see who's going to say that like if the economy crashes as a result of this. That's what I'm curious of.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Falano.
All right. Oh, this is a good one. No, it's not gonna crash the economy. The most it will do is cause more inflation. Right now, December inflation is up 1.1%. Unemployment 965,000. To Polar's point, I have no idea why they're giving checks to people making over 78K. I've gotten 2 checks at this point. I have no idea why. At this point, we think it's because I'm a service-disabled veteran or something. I don't know. I just dumped it into my employees at one of my salons. It made no sense why I got the check. I didn't even notice that. Like, I had to actually call like my bank and then look at my bank statements to notice that I got something from Treasury in the first place. I had no idea why it even was in my account. I didn't even ask for it. But yeah, the biggest thing that these checks will do with the average American being behind 3 to 15 months on rent is literally end up another GME play, a YOLO on black, like do another 14 billion damage to some other insert random hedge fund here. It might be JP Morgan next because they're playing silver. Like, but $600 to someone who's 16,000 in the hole isn't gonna do shit. Yeah, like make it rain. Like you can make some good make it rain TikTok videos with it, maybe. But like this money, it's just gonna cause more inflation. It's gonna be modest in nature unless we lose our reserve currency status. Like none of it makes any sense. Like I think Phil said, I love that man. He's amazing. I love him. Like he hit it so hard on the head there. It's just like we're in this crazy topsy-turvy world where the complete opposite parties are doing the complete opposite things you'd expect. Like nothing is stable, nothing is normalized. The whole thing is chaotic. We don't know what's going to blow up the economy right now. Goldman Sachs is talking about GameStop blowing up the economy right now. Who knows what's actually going to cause it to tank at this point? Just throw some dice on a roulette table and bet on black. Like this game's all kinds of whacked out.
3 years,
Okay,
the UN will
wait,
OnlyFans.
real quick. Sorry, it's opening statement. I'm going to throw it to who did I? CTV.
All right. So, just so we're clear, right? I want to make sure that we restate the question because I don't want to get too far away from it. And the question is, will the Biden stimulus crash the economy and who will pay for it? Right? So, right off the bat, the answer is exactly what Phil said. We are in this fiat currency, crazy ass state of things, right? So the answer to that question is, will this one thing? No, absolutely not, right? As far as what you said about conservatives arguing for a UBI, I've actually been saying that if we reduce the bureaucracy all the way down to where the federal government was only writing a check, that the money saved from that could be used to provide a UBI, right? You do the math, it's kind of right there. So, and who's going to pay for it? Well, of fucking course we're going to pay for it, the taxpayers, right? Whether it's us today or us tomorrow or us a couple of generations from now, but who gives a fuck, right? These bankers are just trying to bleed us for everything that they can fucking get anyway, right? So the reality is that we need to get back to a system to where we don't have this fiat situation. That would kind of be like the ideal thing, so that the corporations don't end up owning the whole fucking country. Which, by the way, if you weren't paying attention a few weeks ago, we had corporations that actually censored the highest office on the land off of one of their platforms. And if anybody else doesn't think that that's something to be fucking worried about, well, clearly you're not fucking paying attention, right?
Here.
So I don't know. I think that
right,
we can definitely have some conversation about economy and the way that these kinds of things work. But we already know who's going to be paying for it. And beyond that, let's have some fun.
All right. GKL.
All right. I just want to first. I'm going to note the irony of CTV not wanting to get off topic. Let's recall how we transitioned from "Is Biden a hypocrite for not wearing a mask?" into the Tara Reid allegations. Probably a chef's kiss on that pivot. Okay, so no one seems to be giving like the little nonsense libertarian talking points here, and I appreciate that. So I guess that's more for the audience. So I'll make this thing first. The way like debts and deficits work, like most people don't understand. It's not like your household. Some people mention it's a fiat currency. We control our own money supply. The point of being able to print your own money and like use your own money supply is to be able to respond in times of crises like this, right? So the 2008 recession, which Phil brought up, one of the reasons why that recovery was so slow is because the stimulus was not aggressive enough. Like you can find economists saying this, like, yeah, they should have like doubled like each one basically. It might be a little off on the exact amount they wanted to increase it by, but suffice to say, it was the lack of stimulus that hurt that. And as for like who's going to pay for it, we're going to pay for it, which CTV brought up and would also be another point. Like that's some of the fiat currency. Like we don't really need to pay for it. We can just put like technically this can happen. Okay, this sounds weird and it can cause inflation, but we can just literally print like we don't even print money. We just change decimal points at the Fed and then put it in some account somewhere. Like that's literally all we have to do. And we just put that money where we want it, and then it gets spent and circulated through the economy, and then they can just take it back through taxation, some like thing later if there's inflation. Like it's like I'm not an economics expert, but everyone who pretends debts and deficits like matter at all are like insane people. Doesn't mean anything. Let's see. Deficits matter. Okay, yeah, that's about it. That's all I got.
Okay, and Cypher.
Yeah, so I'm going to be the turd in the punch bowl here and take the opposite position, but it's going to be for the different reason. The Biden stimulus won't crash the economy. If it does, it will be because it is not robust enough. $1.9 trillion and all the money where it's going is not targeting enough of the people that are 7 months plus behind on rent. And we need to get those people whole, including the people that own the property whole, in order to pay off the debt they have. Because if that doesn't happen, there will be an economic recession and it will be deep. If this is left on the table, that economic recession will be deep. It won't be as deep as 2008 because 2008 was both a demand, a bubble, and a oversupply recession caused. I know I'm getting wrapped around the axle here, but be with me. So yeah, I'm going to be the turn the punch bowl and say that it's not robust enough, so therefore it will crash the economy.
Okay, you can engage.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cypher. Actually, that that it's probably not enough. There's too many people who are probably going to lose their houses or, get evicted, people not able to pay their bills. And there's lots of countries out there that you would think are not, like literally the United States. I'm a proud patriot. We can do whatever we want, guys. Like if we want to make sure that everybody's able to take care of themselves, take care of their families, put food on the table, we could do this. We could make it happen so easily. But we haven't done any of that. We haven't done any of these things. The reason Biden was voted into office is because he was thought to be more competent when it came to helping Americans during the pandemic than Trump was. And I think that this is a good start. But if assuming that the pandemic's not going to be over in a couple months, we're going to need more to come after this.
And to piggyback off of that just really quick, he did say this is part one of a stimulus package.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Falanoa, then Phil.
All right. So after me, huh, buddy?
No. Well, I'm just gonna add. You can't ignore debts and deficits for any organization. Even okay. So you can't reject or deject those. Like those are always gonna have to be something we have to consider. Printing money, there are long-term consequences of varying degrees. Typically, what that typically institutes as is debt. It generates large sums of debt that you have to debt service over time. So there is a cost to that, even if we're just generating T-notes and then from those T-note sales creating currency that we inject into the markets. But the biggest thing here is people think that we can just stimulus our way out of this problem, and that's just simply not the case. The easiest way to put this in terms to simplify and really dumb it down for people is if I hand you a whole cord of firewood and I just give you that cord of firewood. You don't chop wood. You don't know how to chop wood. You don't know how to split wood. I just give you a cord of firewood and you put in a log a night. How many nights until you run out of firewood? Did giving you the firewood fix your permanent heat issue? No, it didn't. Did it fix your cooking issue? No, it didn't. You need firewood. You need to be able to provide your own firewood. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much firewood I give you. You will always run out and need more. What this issue is we need to teach people how to split firewood. And in order to split firewood, they have to work. And that's where we're at right now, is getting people back to work. Until we do that, it doesn't matter how much money we dump into the economy, temporary or long term. I could give you $40,000. If the average cost of rent in California is $6,000 a month and you're 15 months behind, $40,000 will be obliterated and you'll still be 4 to 5 months behind. And you still got your 15 months of car payments and credit cards. It didn't fix your problem. Cash doesn't fix the problem.
Oh, because
Work
it's
does.
not enough cash.
Wait.
Sorry.
I need to throw it to Phil, and after that, Cypher.
Oh, thank you. Now we're talking about how we're printing money and do debts and deficits matter, and I think we're all kind of missing that really give the dollar its value, and it's the gods complex: guns, oil, and drugs. Those are the things that actually give the dollar its value. Our amazing navy that allows for free oil to move throughout the world, and the petrodollar that it continues to be traded on worldwide. That's what actually gives our dollar its value. Is basically all of us are like, well, I'll keep using this dollar because I'm kind of more worried about those people with lots and lots of guns and bombs that'll come and tell me what for if I decide not to. And that's really worldwide. We could print all the money we want infinitely, unfortunately. Like, I'm not happy about it, but we could, so long as we have enough guns and ships and military and oil to back it all up. The minute any of those go bust, it's going to be a very interesting day to be holding dollars. And also another thing, somebody was talking about how to adjudicate a UBI. It's something that Milton Friedman actually cooked up back in the 80s, and I actually think it's not too bad of an idea if that's just what you want to get to. You pick some number that's the baseline for an income, and rather than doing anything else, all you do is just have a negative income tax. And then at that point, wherever somebody falls below that basic line, they get a bit bigger check back with their tax return, and that's how you actually make that difference without all of the bullshit administration that would come with an entirely new freaking government agency. And because I fucking love saying it, because I haven't been elected to office yet, I yield the balance of my time.
All right. Cypher, go ahead. After that, it's Tom.
So to Felenor's point about ignoring debts and deficits, I don't think anybody on the panel here is saying that we ignore debts and deficits. It's simply a matter of how much productive capacity the United States has in order to finance those debts and deficits. When you say that we need to fix this by giving people jobs, you're absolutely, positively, 100% correct on that. The problem is that in the interim, if they're not working, they need to be able to still maintain their homes, there's food supply, and all this other stuff. So if we suddenly send people back to work and they still have this huge debt burden on their shoulders, no matter how much they work, they're going to be forever behind because too many people do not make a living wage for a variety of different reasons that we could get into, but it's not pertinent to the situation. The fact is that exists. And I
all right, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, and in order for these businesses to still be there for people to get jobs, we all have to still be able to have cash on hand to keep these businesses open and keep spending money. There's lots of parts to this plan, and it's not just as simple as saying we're going to stimulus away the problem. Like there's funding for schools so that they can reopen schools and have the infrastructure needed to get kids back in. Probably the worst part to me is the part where they're trying to raise the federal minimum wage to $15. I think that's kind of ridiculous for a federal minimum wage, but I think I think that they're doing lots of stuff with the unemployment insurance and I think the best part is probably the fact that they're using this to also fund more vaccinations for people. And I think the faster we get the vaccinations out there, the faster we're going to be able to deal with this problem. So it's not just stimulus. We're not stimulusing the problem away. I mean, getting vaccinations out there is probably the thing to help us the fastest.
All right, Paula.
Yeah, I've heard some economic ideas on here that I don't know if I necessarily agree with, but like even if we look at like some of Keynes' ideas, matching the public spending, increasing public spending to match the private spending deficit is a pretty big one, and that's kind of the goal to a certain extent here, right? One of the reasons why we want to give out stimulus checks to certain groups of people so they can boost consumption. Keynes will talk about how the idea that like consumption can be the backbone of the economy, yada yada yada, all that good stuff. So even if we were to run with like Fallen Noir's whatever example, consumption is still really important. So giving them that money is still a form of consumption. Marginal propensity to consume, how likely are to consume in comparison to save, is much higher with like poor individuals. What we're actually seeing is like a part of society that isn't consuming as much as they normally do. That's really harmful. That's all of those goods, services, all those products, all that good stuff that just isn't being bought, and that has effects all the way to the top, right? So like if someone's like, oh, we're giving you all this money, like, oh, you're gonna do with it, you're gonna use it, and it's like, yeah, like, well, that using also keeps a lot of those businesses up as well. It's not the best way to look at this long term. I would hope that we don't like this doesn't last long. But Tom also mentioned how a lot of this money is going out to vaccine rollout. Vaccine rollout is important when it comes to getting the economy back on foot. And even people like the Brookings Institute specifically mention that a lot is riding on this vaccine. A lot of the economy is riding on this. This specific stimulus, as I mentioned earlier, it seems like with all the data like presented, it's going to get us back to a pre-COVID economy that's expected to be on it where it was at 2022. So, I mean, it seems to be the most effective with the data that we have now. Even with the critiques that I mentioned, specifically how you don't want to give money to necessarily everyone through stimulus, just because not everyone consumes the same amount. It just seems to be effective. It's better than nothing. I would say that for sure. Yeah.
All right, Fana now.
Yeah, so my biggest issue, again, with the injections of the stimulus, and it just keeps coming back, and this has been all over the news media, when you're giving all these people these checks, they're dumping it into Walmart, Target, Google, Amazon, Apple. These are the companies that they're pouring that money into right now. Those companies are not stimulating the economy. They're not creating more jobs. They're designed to work to scale. And they're not going to continue to hire. Small business will do that, and those organizations right now are predominantly closed, gone, or going out of business. And so it doesn't matter how much money we pour into the economy if those businesses aren't open and can't open. And pouring a handful of dollars into a handful of people's pockets won't solve that problem, because once those businesses are gone and they're evicted, that's an average cost of $200,000 to $600,000 to reopen them per small business. You take into consideration they're supposed to be 40 to.
Everybody, sorry about the chat thing. I got it working again.
You just can't come back from. Then that's what many economists are saying, is once we reach past that demarcation point, it won't matter if we stimulate the economy into oblivion. Those small businesses are gone for good. They're not coming back. Those jobs are gone for good. And even if we do fully reopen up, fully vaccinated, it won't matter, because the jobs won't exist anymore. And the amount of money that would be required to generate to get them all back up and running would be so unfathomable that it might actually bankrupt the United States from hyperinflation, because we'd have to print that much money to get that many resources, assuming we could even get that many assets and resources in the first place, because we'd need that much stuff. And that's one of my biggest issues that I have with that. In regards to UBI,
real quick, the
Whoa, Tom, can I respond?
Though.
He made that specifically towards me. He made that specifically towards me. So can I respond to that? So even in that bill, they give targeted sets of money towards these businesses, even if it's not necessarily enough. And that may be something that like I would agree on. It's $150 billion towards that way. So focusing on that production aspect to meet the consumption that's growing. You keep mentioning like all of like these economists are agreeing this issue, and that issue, but you haven't like laid out any surveys or polls. And that's something that I can bring up significantly, right? Like Router specifically looked at a poll and did a survey size of economists, and like 90% of them actually found this stimulus would boost the economy significantly. I mean, I'm just curious to hear your specific sources, because this is something that I hear from a lot of people who talk about economics, is that they'll bring up specific terms and not talk about the quantitative effect of them. Because as we all know, the quantitative effect of economics is just as important. Just saying a concept and applying it doesn't necessarily mean anything if you can't quantify that specific concept. So if I'm saying inflation, like, oh, inflation's going to happen, okay, how much inflation? Because if I were to say that, like, oh, we had inflation rates of 10% this year in comparison to like 0.5, inflation is still happening in both of those. I just really would like you to quantify a lot of the claims that you made.
All right, so the first one is economists. I've gotten resources all the way from Statista to Reuters to Bloomberg, but I'm not so much worried about economists. They're a lot like hedge fund managers and brokers. 90% of them fail to beat the market, so I'm not exactly impressed by them or economists.
Economists don't really play the market.
Hang on. So the people that I talk to when I want to know about small business is small business owners. Right now, I'm looking at over 50 businesses right now to buy across the United States, and these businesses are liquidating on average for $10,000 to $30,000 a piece. And that's because they have no will to continue on business, or they cannot financially afford to do so anymore. And so I'm acquiring these businesses as asset sales. Those businesses are effectively dead. And so it's going to be on me to be able to revive those businesses when the economy does eventually reopen. But whether you talk to an economist, or whether you talk to Bloomberg, or whether you talk to someone from somewhere like Barclays, it doesn't matter. The ultimate reality is it's not economists that run these businesses. It's small business owners and the small business brokers who sell these businesses, as well as the small business owners that I've talked to across the country, which I talk to all the time. They're all saying the same thing, which is they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. Whether you're following the restaurant F&B industry right now with what Barstool's doing to help revive small business restaurants, or you're following what the major chains are saying, like McDonald's, or you're following what Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are pushing out, it's all the same thing. If the businesses don't get resuscitated and resuscitated soon, they're not going to come back. You can't give CPR to a dead person. There's no point.
So my question was going to be, sorry.
Real quick, sorry. Well, Tom, you wanted to talk for a while. After that, I want to throw to Cypher.
Okay, so my question was going to be, we know that the citizens still have to eat, right? So we still have to send out some sort of stimulus, and you're saying that the small businesses are probably going to be gone one way or the other. What is the other option? Like, you're very critical of what it is that we are doing, but I haven't heard what it is you think that we should be doing.
If y'all are okay, I'll answer that. So what I believe that we should be doing is looking at a UBI-based system. The first thing we have to do in order to do that, though, is we have to get our spending under control. Before we could do anything substantial, we need to have a long-term plan for a long-term cost basis. And right now, I think Phil was, again, an amazing point that he made when we gave astronomical amounts of money, like I think it was $150 million. Sorry if I don't know the number directly off the top of my head. 800 million, something like that, to museums. Like, we're funding federal museums that can't be open because of COVID. And so I don't understand why we're spending that kind of money on places that we can't do anything with. We need to restructure our cost basis to prepare for the ugliness that is coming, which is the fact that we're going to need to be able to fund for a lot of citizens while we are rebuilding the small business environments naturally. One of the great things about capitalism is when you create a void, other business owners will step in to fill that void, because competition and the risk versus reward model, I almost said greed, but it's greed's not always a bad thing. When there's money to be made and there's opportunities to be created, that's a great thing, especially when you're creating jobs to do it. And so when those voids do inevitably happen, which they are going to happen, we have to prepare ourselves as Americans. This is a reality we will face. A lot of these businesses, they will not come back. They are gone. They are dead. It is sad. It's heartbreaking. Some of them have been around for 100+ years. Some of them 40+ years, like some of the restaurants in New York. they're gone. They're not coming back. It's over. They're the things that you see in the movies because they're not there anymore, and it's unfortunate. But that's the reality we have to prepare for. And so a UBI-based system, even if it's temporarily, I openly recommend that it is. We go in, we put that in place, we cut our costs, we lower our costs, we reallocate resources and actually do so efficiently and not just burning money by giving it to the Syrians to build an army. I still don't understand that logic, but whatever. Powers that be may know more than I do. I don't understand giving weapons and technology to other countries right now when our people are starving to death. Like, that's not okay.
Okay, I don't disagree with the UBI.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
But yeah, but
I'm
we
going
have to do
to
something.
wait. Sorry, I need to follow the godly notepad. Cypher, go ahead, and after that, Paula.
Sure. Valinor, would you agree that without COVID, would you agree that without COVID, none of these businesses would have shut down? Majority of them would have shut down.
Correct.
Okay. Would you also agree that even though that there has been shutdowns in some states, the majority of the United States has not been under any form of serious lockdown as a whole?
I can't speak to every state. I haven't tracked every state.
I'm saying as a whole. Could you say that as a whole, we haven't really been under a serious lockdown?
It depends on the state and it depends on the industry.
I'm saying
well, it depends because the service-based industry employs the most amount of people, and that's the one that's been impacted the most. Okay. And so you could shut down 80% of the country, but if you shut down the service-based industry, it doesn't matter because you're going to impact the overwhelming majority of jobs.
I agree with you on that. Where I'm thinking the contention here is between you and I is whether or not getting rid of COVID is going, or whether or not it was COVID specifically that did this, or if it was governments shutting down businesses. Personally, I believe that even if government didn't shut down any business whatsoever, everything was just left open. You can see it here in Texas. Texas didn't really shut down any business. I think it was like a 2-week span of time frame where businesses were more or less shut down, more or less. After that, restaurants, bars, everybody went back up to a minimum of 50% capacity. There was times and places where there was 100% capacity. Despite all that, all these businesses were extremely under stress because people like myself were not going out because we didn't want to risk ourselves and our loved ones getting COVID. So,
and that's accurate.
That's
accurate. The number is 20 to 40% for those wondering. For states, sorry, I said countries. Florida is its own little country these days. But depending on the age demographic of regions, the number can get as high as 60%. But yes, you're absolutely correct. Even if people just staying and not going out shopping as much, that's correct. And that's been a universal experience I've had with business owners across the country. Regardless of whether it was a lockdown or non-lockdown state, the average number ranges, like I said, between 20 and 60% impact.
So then could you then agree with Tom Foolery and myself that these businesses should be made whole because it wasn't anything in their control to be done? And if they were made whole, why should we let quote unquote natural forces gut them and let them be for people like yourself, and I'm not blaming you here, but people like yourself being able to swoop in and buy them on the cheap?
I'm absolutely for that if that's possible. The issue is the astronomical amount of costs. For instance, it really would be unfortunate. That's one of the unfortunate downsides.
Well, let's Cypher, I mean, just easy math here, right? Because I know Fallenor's already made all the points, right? So, but easy math here. Let's just say that each small business required $50,000 for, say, 2 months of operation, right? Just as an instance, how many small businesses do you think that there is? How many do you think that there are?
There's like 100 million or so.
100 million, right? So 100 million times $50,000 is how much money?
Okay. A lot.
But let me ask you this.
I'm not a math expert, but I'm just going to say 50 billion right off the top of my head, right?
That money goes to their
50
employees.
billion? Is that right, or is it 50 trillion? Which one is it?
It's 5 trillion.
If it went to their
5 trillion?
employees,
I think. Hold on.
If it went to their employees and it went to servicing debt, couldn't we just take out the debt middleman on there and that would reduce the amount of money? Just say everybody ignore all the debt. Everybody ignore all the debt. You can't take any debt payments here. Everything is going to be made whole. Just ignore the debt. What do you think would happen to the U.S. currency?
5 trillion.
I think that we're going to reach that critical mass point where the currency itself and the printing of it is not going to be able to pull us out of this thing. to
We
be
are in
getting the
18
transactions actually made between people selling a good and people buying a good. We have to get those transactions back
Sure.
up across all of the different markets.
But we can't while COVID is still a thing. So do you
Right,
think that
so
these
this-
businesses should
so
be
this is
allowed
one of
to
the-
fail, or do you
so
think
this-
they should be made whole in order to make them survive this unprecedented time in our history? And then
I would say that
get
right now
later?
the thing that needs to be getting done is the governments themselves actually looking at, hey, what laws do we need to not be enforcing? That way we don't have to collect tax dollars through these things instead of just looking at only pumping money into the economy through the printing of it. Right. So, like, for example, I could point out the drug war, which is something that CTV is very, very infamous for. Right. If we ended the drug war, right, that would be one of those cost-cutting measures that the government could be taking a look at as far as trying to lower the obligation of the money that the government has to collect, and then that money actually stays in the people's hands too. So there is a conversation about the printing of money and then the sending it out to the people, but there needs to also at the same time be a conversation of government not doing so many things so that it doesn't need to collect so many tax dollars so that we actually can move forward in a smart way rather than just the way that's going to shoot us right down the lane of hyperinflation.
I agree,
Here's-
Steve.
I have-
Should be
Real quick,
functional.
wait. Sorry. I want to throw it to Paula, and after that, Phil. And also, we got someone who wants to join. I don't know if we'll allow it.
Who is it?
If it's not Dylan Burns
I know.
approved, I wouldn't say do it.
Okay.
I know
Who
that
is
he's
it?
modding in chat about
Go
the
for
CIA
it.
thing.
Go for
So
it.
Rage Pope?
Go for
No.
it.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
the
can I, okay,
man
so can I
himself. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I? Okay, so I have a lot of things to address. So, Fallen War. Okay, your comments about I like just dissing them in general is very weird, and not only like completely ahistorical. A lot of our policy directly comes from them because they have the ability to look over aggregate data that isn't presented to someone like yourself, who probably does have a lot of experiences with small businesses. But when you like this aspect, like I believe you should probably increase small business funding. But not only, for example, where increasing unemployment benefits allow for firms to cut their labor and make sure that their workers after at least have some form of like reliance and some form of income coming in comparison to like the federal unemployment benefits going off. Or, for example, watching small businesses run through their cash reserves and then allowing for increased uses of PPP, which is like that went out very quickly last time. So making sure that there's more of that. And then you also mentioned like a UBI plan, right? I'm curious, would this UBI, would this just be given out to everyone and then they would consume in the small businesses? Yes or no?
Who are you asking?
Okay. I was asking Fallen, but I think
Okay.
he's doing something right now. And then CTV specifically referring like,
Sorry.
I think it was like cut. Yeah. So the question that I asked, you specifically referred to UBI,
Yeah.
and like the way that would work. So would you imagine that these consumers would just like spend that UBI funding on those small businesses?
No, so the UBI would be specifically just for the employees. And to get to the other questions,
And
I
it's not a
sat here and I
UBI.
did.
It's
Yeah,
just one question.
it's supposed to be part of a UBI. And to
What?
get to the other question, I did some quick shorthand math based on 70% of employment, based on the average of 20 small business.
Just so
Sorry,
my
no,
time,
no,
I was
this
just asking a question.
no, yeah, sorry, but this will help to answer your question and to get to the point where I'm making with the UBI. But with the total collective numbers, it'll be between 547.8 and 1.427 trillion dollars to make the small businesses whole, with payroll considered at 45% of a $200,000 annual gross basis, which
So
is
about-
according to the SBA.
Wait.
Go ahead.
I don't know how this specifically, like, I just want to get to your specific UBI policy. You said that
Yeah,
you're just going to
yeah,
give it
that's
to
part
the
of the UBI.
employees.
Yeah, that's the other side of that, is you make the small businesses whole to actually bring the small businesses back to a net positive from all the losses for 3 to 15 months over the time frame, given their average ranges for total expenses, assuming the net electrical being around $500 a month, their rent being between $3,000 and $12,000 depending on the state, and their payroll being 45% of gross. And also, of course, assuming SBA statistical averages, with a 70% employment rate of 147 million basis Americans, which gives you 5.145 million small businesses in America.
So I don't necessarily understand how that constitutes UBI. It'd be firms giving it to their employees.
It would be it would be a dual system UBI in essence, where one makes the small businesses whole so that they survive, so the jobs are still there when they come back. And then the other side is UBI specifically for the people, so they have an income, so that when they come back whole. So they have all this money coming in. It makes them whole for that time. Yes, and it's continually.
Okay, yeah, I
paying off.
agree. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wait.
Eleanor's talking about
Wait.
I'm so sorry. Yes, fine. Let's go.
Sorry. We have a special guest, a new player just entered the arena. So I just want him to introduce himself, and I think he has a piece to say.
Hello, everybody. My name's Dylan Burns of Dylan Burns TV of the Recruitment channel you are on. So today is Sunday, and I don't have many days off. I work 7 days a week, but I was spending my Sunday watching this amazing show because it's part of the best brand on Twitch, which is the Dylan Burns TV brand of Twitch political debate. We have some of the fastest rising stars on the platform. But while I was watching, I saw something, and I gotta say I'm somewhat disappointed for many of you here. And that reason why I'm disappointed is you guys didn't push back upon a claim that's very near and dear to my heart. A foreign policy claim made by Fallen Noor about Syria, about why are we funding to build armies in Syria when that flag behind me, by the way, to anybody thinking, is the flag of the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces, the very army we are helping to fund. So this cause is very close to my heart. So I'm very disappointed in some of you for not putting some pushback there, but putting pushback in other arenas as a person who has brought foreign policy analysis to Twitch. And so, as the fastest rising star on Twitch, which is Dylan Burns TV, I am here to say, Fallen Noor, that our investment in the SDF was good, it was efficient, it was low cost, and it was one of the most successful American military operations of the modern age. And we need to invest on the global stage during this crisis. If anything, more during this global crisis, since nobody else is going to push back on it. I thought, why not? This is the dark show. This is like a wrestling dark show. It's the recruitment panel. Nobody's watching anyway, so let's have fun. So why should we get out of Syria? Why should we pull all that and invest it somewhere else, Fall?
Oh, so let me just go ahead and clarify there. And again, Dylan, it's great to see you. I'm not saying that we shouldn't invest overseas right now. I'm saying we should have a focus on what's going on over here. If there is a justification for Syria, that's fantastic. As I said before, you could pull the VOD. I don't know what the justification is. The powers that be that made that decision probably have more information than I do. You definitely do. I absolutely believe that. If it's $1 billion and it can actually successfully build out an entire army, you're absolutely right. That's an amazing expense. Because you could spend $1 billion at the Pentagon and that'll fall through the cracks before it hits. You might get the paperwork started for a contract over there. Like, it's disgusting how much money they set on fire over there, and I've worked there, so I know I can speak firsthand. But it's like I said, it's $1 billion into their army, or however much we spent. I don't know, but there's all this spending in all these bills that are so unaccounted for, or into wasteful spending, in my personal opinion, given current conditions. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't spend in other places. I absolutely agree. Money spent in helping third world countries, second world countries that don't have access to capital to buy vaccines, absolutely critical for them, because the vaccines, if they do work to the levels that they're currently claiming, like Johnson & Johnson's at 67%, which is what they just released. New data says 85%. If we could take those vaccines and deploy them in places like South Africa, maybe we can get ahead of these new strands and variants that are incredibly more dangerous, that will cause long-term harm to our economies, that will keep people from shopping, because those strains have already found their way into the UK. It's very, very likely they found their way over here, and maybe they've talked about it already. I don't know. Maybe they have. I haven't seen anything in regards to the new variants that are over here from the UK/South African strains, but I absolutely do agree. If we can deploy capital there to help to prevent additional spreading or mass outbreaks in major places like third world and second world countries, we should. Because long term, that will make their way to us either way, which is why the U.S. already has several efforts, which was one of the reasons why I was confused why we pulled out of the WHO in the first place. Because that's where our money typically goes, is to assist those countries from having major outbreaks that will eventually end up in our home front.
Okay, so why did you bring up Syria as a specific example of something we're kind of like wasting money in?
I'm not saying that we did waste the money. I'm just saying that we put a lot of money towards Syria and other places.
Which
it
is a
was
good
as an
thing.
example.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
Syria specifically as an actual, if you want to talk about the
Okay.
anecdotal of it, I'm okay with spending money on Syria if it has a good purpose. Like I said before, I don't know what that purpose is. If it's a valid purpose, we should absolutely do it. If they come out and say we're giving 250 million to the UK, I'm going to ask questions about it. Why are we giving the UK 250 million? Oh, it's because they're deploying the vaccines directly from Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca to South Africa because they're the local logistics chain. That makes sense. Go ahead and do it because it keeps it from outbreaking further. We can get this thing under control faster. We can get back to normal as long as the vaccines work like they say they do. And that's the one caveat that someone brought up earlier is we're betting everything on the line here. We're betting on black that these vaccines work. And that scares the hell out of me given the current data that goes up and down and all the information. I don't want to necessarily say false or misinformation, but it scares the hell out of me because some of these numbers range from 30 to 70%, and that is a huge fucking range.
What
Okay.
vaccine did you see that was 30%?
Can I please talk about the point that I got interrupted on, Geek? Can I go down that?
Well,
Is that fine?
Look, while Dylan's in the room, because I don't know if he's going to be staying, right? I don't know if Fallen Order was just trying to be so incredibly reasonable that he didn't just want to appear combative. But you know what, Mr. Dylan Burns TV? I respect what you do, right?
God.
I absolutely respect what you do. But if you think for 1 minute that the conversation about the SDF and America's involvement in the Middle East is simply over, right? You'd have to be mistaken. Right? Because for me, it doesn't come so much to the topic of money as it seems to be what most people are worried about. For me, it comes down to the idea of philosophy, right? Should we actually be engaging in activities with illegitimate people, meaning that they are not a part of the legitimate government of the internationally recognized government of that nation, right?
What?
So it certainly seems to me that that's where the conversation with regard to Syria could be had because the economics of it, clearly, you covered every single possibly good point that could be made, and there's no arguments there. But philosophically, there would be a much different conversation.
You know what? Give me a moment here. Because you know what? CTV? I am a God-fearing American. And you know what that means, CTV? That means a few things. That means a few things. The first thing that means is I believe in 1776. I believe in it fundamentally. I believe that dictatorships and authoritarianism is un-American and illegitimate as a form of governance. That every dictatorship is illegitimate as a concept. Because anyone that has to browbeat you into submission.
You say that.
Illegitimate government. And let me finish. I gave you your time, CTV. I gave you your time. Let this son of God get a few moments, okay? Let this child of the Almighty get a few seconds. And you know what? Illegitimate government. I'll tell you a few things. Was it illegitimate for the French to support us in our rebellion against the British? Was it illegitimate for us to support Korea during its defense against a communist invasion from the north? Was it illegitimate for us to even rebel against the British? Was it illegitimate for the people of Haiti to rebel against its government because it didn't want to be in bondage? Was that illegitimate? Should we have been quiet then? No. And the government of Bashar al-Assad has not treated his people very kindly. He has gassed them. He has shot them. He has beaten protesters. He has tortured them. He has done a lot of things that I would say is illegitimate of anyone who lives under God's ways or under international law. And so, if he was unable to beat ISIS because of his incompetence and brutality, and it took the Kurds and Yazidis and Arabs of northeastern Syria to pick up guns with American support and lose 12,000 martyrs in its fight against ISIS, I think it gets a little bit of decision-making power about their future when they had to let 12,000 sons and daughters fight against slavers and butchers. And I think America's saying, I think that struggle was legitimate. Your losses were not illegitimate. Those 12,000 didn't die in vain. I think personally that is an American and freedom-loving concept.
I would have to. Hold on.
You're speaking a lot of truth. I gotta
hold on now.
Hold on
Mr.
now.
Dylan Burns, I recognized all of what you just said, and what I'm going to point to is the conversation that we had previously, right? And the difference between the people of Syria, especially in the northeast part of it, that are a part of the SDF, the difference between those people and us as Americans is that we declared our independence. And that is the difference, is that the SDF wants to operate inside the government of Syria, right? And by supporting the SDF, we're actually actively supporting the very thing that we would not want, which is somebody subverting our government, right? It's one thing to declare yourself independent of that government, but is a completely idea wholeheartedly to try to still be inside of the government that you were previously and try to coerce it in a manipulative way, such as providing arms to those people.
When we had the Articles of Confederation in this country, there was a farmers' rebellion, and that farmers' rebellion led to reform. It led to reform because we saw the Articles of Confederation was too weak of documents to hold this country together. And when the SDF comes out and says to Bashar al-Assad and the world, we don't even want independence, we want to be treated like human beings. That is something to be respected, because they're not even throwing off the shackles of Assad completely. They're not even throwing off the idea that they are at all part of Syria. They are throwing off the concept of being treated like animals. That is what they're throwing off. Much like the farmers who rebelled were not throwing off the concept of being American, but we're throwing off the concept of starvation. The idea that they were supposed to live in destitution in this country. So that also, rebelling for concepts, but not for independence, is also an American and freedom-loving concept.
Where y'all been hiding this guy? Yeah, this is great.
Hey, Dylan, you've been hanging out a lot with Bastion, I see recently, right?
You got to make different types of argumentation to convince different types of people.
True.
You got to understand.
That's true.
Dylan, I'll give you credit. The reason I avoided that was because I was like, man, it's gonna be hard to get the America First crowd on board with foreign aid. So I was like, I'm not even gonna bother addressing that point. But the way you framed it,
don't get me wrong.
I was like,
I could do that.
Yeah,
Dylan,
I'm all for
no
bombing
problem.
the shit out of Assad. Absolutely.
If you keep it up like this, you could probably get Nick Fuentes on the Hippy Dippy.
Right, Geek, take control, Geek. Come on.
Okay. I think it's time we go back to the right topic.
I'm gonna head out. I love you all. Thank you for coming on to my recruitment show. I give you all the best shot in getting onto the main show. Last week we did our best show ever when it came to viewership. We hit 3,000 viewers at one point, which I think is
you did really good, man,
for a panel show. And I hope to have some of you on. I do want to give a special shout out to Phil. I've really liked what I saw from him so far. And you all have a blessed day. Okay.
See you, buddy.
See you.
Can I respond?
Wait. Hold up. This debate got so derailed out of nowhere. Thanks to Dylan, twitch.tv/DylanBuzzTV. So, yeah, let's go back real quick on the right topic because...
much love to Dylan. Much love.
So will the Biden stimulus crash the economy, basically? I think we're going to do 5 more minutes on this, and after that, we're going to have to do really short closing statement and jump to the next topic.
I just want to go.
All right. Yeah, let's go, Paula, then Phil.
I don't think a UBI is very effective in our time period, and I definitely disagree with Fallen War on that. The goal of a UBI is to stimulate consumption in lower, in groups of the people of the economy. Yes. And as we've seen, it actually just looks like richer people aren't consuming; they're just saving, not barely even investing when it comes to it. That money is much more usefully spent on individuals who are going to consume more in comparison to those who save. Even if we go with the example that you brought up, Fallen War, even if they spend it on a Walmart and like Amazon, it's still better than just saving it, right? Also, if we put in those aspects of the business relief, that keeps those businesses for a little bit longer, and that allows for those people with the stimulus check to then spend it on the food, spend it on those local groceries, yada yada yada, spend it on all those local businesses that we all care about. So UBI is not necessarily useful during our time, and that's one of the main critiques with Biden's stimulus check, is that we don't really need to give it to people honestly, we don't really need to give it to people who make over $78,000 a year. So putting a UBI at this pace would just not be effective. That's just the empirical reality.
Can I ask you a question?
Real quick, go ahead, Gami, and after that, Phil.
I just wanted to ask, why 78,000? You keep saying that number.
Because so the way that we look at spending, right, is we look at the increase in spending as a result of stimulus checks, right? So above $78,000 a year, spending only increased for people who made that amount of money by 0.2%. Whereas in comparison to people who made below like 48,000 a year, their spending increased by 20%, which is much more massive in comparison to those who make 78,000. What we're actually seeing is that they're saving a lot more in comparison to those who will actually just go out and directly use the money.
Yeah, it's knock-on effects too, right?
Yeah.
All right, Phil, go ahead.
Boy, sir, I gotta tell you, being a mod in this room, you gotta have the patience of Job. Now, I will say earlier, sir, you asked. There you are. Yes, where will those stimulus checks be spent? Will it be spent on consumption? No, sir. It'll be spent on GameStop stocks. That's what it'll be spent on. I kid.
It all comes back to GME.
Yeah, but I do kid. And I was actually looking forward to getting into that other topic because I am one of the biggest shills for big piece you'll ever find. But that's neither here nor there. We'll get there for another day. A little preview for y'all to check out later, folks. But the thing that you need to keep in mind, folks, everybody's saying, well, we need to hand out this UBI so that we can have businesses reopen, or we need to do this so that this can help, or we can help these people here or those folks over there. The thing that I think it hasn't really sunk into a lot of people yet that with the destruction of demand that we had, demand has changed. The same economy that we were thinking of 18, 24, 36 months ago is not going to be the economy we're going to have 18, 36 months from now. It's never going back to that way. We've had a complete shift in demand. We've had a complete shift in buying practices. We've had a complete shift in consumer habits. So the idea that we're going to go back to any sort of economy we had before, I think because of this, you're going to have at least, and take your pick, anywhere from 5 to 20% of our population are just going to permanently be COVID people that just want to, dig themselves into a hole, avoid everyone as much as they can. Even if there's really not an issue with any kind of disease, even we've got a pretty good handle on it, they're going to have a mask ready for the next disease, the next pandemic. I'm going to be one step ahead. I'm going to be buying more toilet paper. I think we're never going to fully shake this. And, of course, I yield back.
All right. Falanawa, I know you wanted to add something. I'm just going to put it in, do you mind doing it in closing statement, basically?
Yeah, I can do it in closing. No problem.
All right, perfect. So we're going to start with closing statement. Try to be as brief as possible, please. Go
Sure.
ahead.
Yeah, so to just my closing statement is I think that UBI will be the most effective way to address this. I think that the perfect way to implement UBI is to fix how we're doing it. Chat briefly brought up the PPP program, which was a disaster because $25 million a year companies were getting it. That's not who it was designed for. Just like with UBI, it's not designed for people making over $78,000 a year who already live 20, 30 points basis over your median American incomes. That should be for people that are sub 10 to sub 30, so negative 10 to negative 30 from your median of 46 or 53, depending on who you ask, 63 depending on new numbers, prior to COVID, of course. But giving people that, as y'all have repeatedly said, who don't have money, capital in their pocket to inject, they will spend it on things that they need because they have to spend it because they don't have an alternative decision to make. They don't have savings. They don't have cash to burn. They don't have massive credit lines. They have to spend it. Saving the businesses, jobs are there. As Phil said, the industry will have transformed. We'll see what that looks like. But natural attrition will occur, but it at least puts everybody at a net zero, and then the markets will go where they may.
All right. I want to throw it to Gami.
I think the best way is to just give stimulus. I think we really need it to get more cash flow spent. A lot of people are spending on rent if they can even pay for rent and are unable to buy necessities. So yeah, I just say we need to do it for everyone.
All right. GKR.
I guess there's a few things I want to address. All right, I'll try and do it quickly. So Falinor, like the whole anecdote about caring about what small business thing instead of economists is just so weird. Like we're trying to understand macroeconomic forces and how to deal with the economy. This is how we do that. We do studies after various recessions and trying to understand how we're supposed to do things. Just dismissing economic analysis from people with PhDs, kind of silly. The stimulus. Let's see. Like the whole point of the current stimulus, which it seemed like you were on the whole like open businesses thing, but like as Cypher mentioned, just opening businesses doesn't help. Like I'm in Florida, we have tons of business open. I just don't go out to eat. I used to go out to eat 3 times a week now, maybe at most like once a month. When there's a raging pandemic, people don't want to go outside because there's people dying by the legion. So the point is that like the goal of the stimulus is to give people short-term aid so they can survive, whether it's businesses or people. You facilitate vaccine rollout and get the economy opened after we're like relatively COVID-free. And our biggest risk is, well, no one really addressed this point, but like Cypher said, not doing enough is our problem. 2 trillion is paltry. That's it.
All right, CTV.
All right. So, this is the outro of the last topic, right?
Yeah, outro of this topic. After that, we got the Keystone Pipeline.
Right. So, stimulus or giving that money to businesses, right? Kind of 6 for 1, half dozen the other. I think that Phil made a pretty good. He made a very good point actually about people and just using COVID as a reason to just stay locked in doors and then like expecting some type of compensation for, it's COVID, I mean, that could be a thing, right? And if they're going to do that, then there's a conversation about how to go about that with regard to UBI, because these people they're going to allow some of what could be considered irrational fears to stay grabbed a hold of them, right? So, and all the jobs that have been lost to get these businesses back up and running at the capacity that they were before is going to require a large amount of money, right? So whether UBI or the businesses, I kind of feel like that if we were going to do anything, then getting the money into the hands of the people and letting the people decide is about the best thing the government could do if the government's going to do anything at all, right? And that's kind of 6 for 1, half dozen the other.
All right. I'm going to throw it to Cypher.
So I don't think we talked much about how people would pay for this, so I'm going to ignore that part of the question. I think what everybody on this panel can agree is that nothing that has been done so far has been enough, and there's various reasons for that. PPP actually did save a plenty of businesses, but the way it was administered was terrible. Thanks, Mnuchin, you douchebag. But as far as where we can see things going in the future, it is there's some disagreement on the panel with UBI versus a basic income guarantee. There's people that are, I think it was Falinor that was talking about a UBI, but more talking about a basic income guarantee, and I think CTV as well. So just wanted to clarify that as well. But no, the economy is not going to be crashed by Biden's stimulus. If it does crash at all, it's because it's not big enough, and we need to make people whole in order to address these issues.
All right. Paula.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to stimulus, this is a better plan than nothing else. I'm not a fan of using UBI right now for the multitude of reasons that I mentioned. Our whole goal is to target the aspects of the economy that are actually need it the most, right? There's a specific quote that refers to how, to a certain extent, some people in America have the most cash on hand that they've had in like a decade, which is crazy to think about. And that's something that's really interesting when it comes to this. So, as I mentioned, UBI is not effective, right? It's really, we can use that money in much more effective places, and this stimulus plan, I don't think it's going to crash the economy. I've seen no data to support that. Like I've heard all these baseless claims about like, we can do this, and that, and that'll really help, but I've seen no evidence for that. I really think it's really harmful to talk about like economists in the way that we do. Like we shouldn't just write them off. Like when we really think about it, economic policy that's been drafted by economists has been some of the most useful aspects of the American policymaking. Like when we think about it, we can think about the Great Depression, or we can think about like Milton Friedman. These people have real power, right? When we think about it, like they push policy, and that's really important to think about. So we should, to a certain extent, value some of their input, and we can disagree with them, but not on the basis of just like, oh, they don't really know what they're talking about. Like, you know, that's pretty dumb. Not
All right, Phil, go ahead.
Okay, like in closing statement, no, this won't be the thing that crashes the economy. But I did want to respond to, well, you know, come on, we need to listen to the economists, folks. You'll notice that there's almost no extremely wealthy economists. It's a very strange paradox about economists, is that they can tell nations how they need to manage their wealth and how they should adjudicate their wealth, and they can tell you how you should manage your wealth and build your wealth, yet they seem to just not have any ability to build any great wealth of their own. It's just, we should totally listen to them. But you know what? I'm looking forward to the next topics, so I yield back. Anybody else that wants a minute?
All right, and to finish, Tom.
Yeah, I don't think that we can compare how an individual builds wealth versus a country. I don't think an economist is now supposed to be able to get rich real quick because they understand how an economy works. But the as far as the plan goes, I wish it was more of a long-term plan. I wish that we saw something that extended farther out. I understand that they say there's more to come, and maybe they want to see how this one works out or how it affects the economy, and then do something afterwards to build on that. But the reason that I would say I agree with the UBI is because I think a UBI is more of a long-term plan, and it's something that is probably sustainable for the future. So but I guess all in all, no, I don't think it's going to crash the economy.
Awesome. Before we jump to the last topic, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here, like every panelist. You guys have been amazing so far. So thank you again for being here. And Hippy Dippy podcast every Friday, 8 p.m. EST. Recruitment show every Sunday, 6 p.m. EST. Hosted by me, and also doing an amazing work behind the scene, twitch.tv/Danabo, my co-host. Follow if you haven't already, support if you can. And let's jump right into the next topic, which is, give me a sec. Why did Biden revoke the Keystone Pipeline and destroy thousands of jobs while risking energy self-sufficiency and alienating our strategic partner? So we're going to, again, try to, we're already kind of late. Try to be as short as possible. Sorry about that. Let's start with Phil.
All right. You know, this is one I'm really glad I was able to be on this panel for, because I'm a farmer out in the middle of Nebraska, and I'm a fifth-generation Nebraska farmer. And there was actually, for about 6 weeks, the Keystone XL pipeline was actually scheduled to go through one of my fields. And so I was not at all happy to hear about this pipeline going through my field, because if you know anything about it'll destroy all the biological life in my soil. It would take generations to build, and we'd have to do it all over again. We don't use anhydrous ammonia, so we actually have biological soil life. The other thing that I was really happy about is Nebraska sits on top of the Ogallala Aquifer, the world's largest freshwater aquifer, one of the largest supplies of fresh water in all the world. And we were going to put a tar sands pipeline through it. Now, I don't know if you know this. If you put tar sand, put it in a glass of water. I got a glass of scotch here, and I'm not going to pour sand. It's really nice scotch. But if you pour just any old oil into water, it'll float to the top. If you have an oil pipeline, there's hundreds, thousands of pipelines here in Nebraska. But when one of those standard oil or gas pipelines leak, it leaks to the top. Yes, it's bad, but it's actually pretty easy to clean up. With tar sand, it actually sinks to the bottom of the glass. So you're going to have all of this tar sand sinking to the bottom of one of the largest fresh water supplies in all the world. Folks around here is like, this is the water we use to drink, eat, brush our teeth with, and most importantly, irrigate our crops with. And I don't know if you know what happens when oil gets onto a leaf. It pretty much kills that in a couple of centimeters around where the oil touched. So we really thought this was, I don't know, robbing Peter to pay Paul, cutting off your nose to spite your face. Pick whatever euphemism you like. We really didn't think this was a very good path. Now, I'm a person that in the election, I did not support Joe Biden. I didn't like him. Going forward, we'll see what happens. But in this one particular instance, 3 cheers to Joe Biden. I stand with my president because this was, again, if you even look at the spreadsheet for it, the Keystone Pipeline doesn't even pencil unless we have gasoline about $5 a gallon. Once you get to there, then it actually pencils to have the pipeline. Otherwise, I know people say, well, do you just want to have it go on trains and such? At about $2, $3 a gallon, it actually does kind of pencil. So just letting you know, folks, that when you're talking about Keystone Pipeline, for a lot of folks, it's in the abstraction. But for this little farmer out in the middle of Nebraska, this is very much reality. And I yield back the balance of my time.
All right. Paul Oswald.
So my position on this is it's probably I'm probably going to agree with the halting the construction. I mean, climate change is an issue. I would hope that no one on this panel would disagree with that aspect. There's probably a valid argument to be made that, there's an aspect of losing jobs, but there's also the aspect of the tar sands, which is where a lot of that oil is coming from, also results in a lot of jobs being lost as well. And if you guys need a number of that, I can provide it. Biden's plan is to increase reliance on more environmentally friendly technologies, and I mean he's pushing us in that direction. To a certain extent, I think someone was going to make the argument about we're going to ruin our connections with a specific nation. I don't know if our relationship with Canada is necessarily going to be ruined. It's Alberta. It's a lot of conservatives there. And I would be curious to see if anyone would make that same argument against the Paris Climate Accords, which you pulled out on. This is just a step in the right direction, right?
All right. I'm going to throw it to Tom.
Yeah. I have trouble believing that anybody here is going to say that ending the Keystone Pipeline or the Dakota Access Pipeline is a bad thing. It sucks that jobs are probably lost from this, but overall, it wasn't a good idea in the first place. There's lots of farmers who were losing land from this. There's lots of Native Americans who were losing land from this. It just seemed like a bad idea from the very beginning. And I think that hopefully we can, as Phil said, it didn't make sense to even build the pipeline. It wasn't necessary, wasn't needed. And then on top of that, we should probably be moving in another direction for renewable energy anyways. So to continue building infrastructure for oil just didn't really make sense. And I'm glad that they ended it. As Phil said, I don't really like Joe Biden. I did vote for him. I don't like him, don't support him very much, but I'm happy that he did this.
All right, Gami.
Oh, so I think it's a really good thing that Biden canceled the Keystone Pipeline. It was fucking terrible for the environment, and we would have destroyed so much of just our nature and wildlife and ecosystem. So I'm really glad we pulled out of it, since President Trump and apparently Trudeau seemed intent on destroying a lot of Alberta's wildlife. But one of the things about the jobs specifically I want to address is that thousands of jobs, as the question says, are not being lost. According to PolitiFact, an estimated 1,000 people will be out of work because of the direct order. We're not losing very many jobs. Yeah, it sucks that some people are going to be unemployed, but only around 1,000 isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. And unlike what the question says, it's not that big of a deal.
All right. CTV.
As I was looking into the Keystone Pipeline, right, I am very, very glad that Phil is here tonight. Very glad, because one of the things that the questions that I had was what was going to be the impact of the pipeline on the local biosphere, right? And because as I started looking into it, it was very evident that this Keystone Pipeline was going to be blazing a brand new, say, trail where there are no other pipelines at that are currently running now. So I wanted to know specifically what was going to be the impact of the environment, and it certainly seems that regardless of the governments getting together and deciding to do this, along with the corporations that were willing to back it, there's a whole lot of conversation with regard to that. My question is that since we can probably all agree that the environmental impacts of this are going to be generationally affecting, right? Is that how do we prevent the next administration from coming into office and just saying, "Yep, Keystone Pipeline back on track"? So that's where I would love to see the conversation go to. Is like, how do we get the information out there, prevent corporations from actually destroying a pretty big and significant part of the environment? So that's what I would like to know.
All right. GKR.
Yeah, I'm gonna go promises made, promises kept on this one. He said he was gonna do it, and he fucking did it. All right. Yeah, he said it like 6-8 months ago when he was getting pressured by the Sunrise Movement and other climate activists. He's like, "Yo, cancel that Keystone Pipeline." He fucking did it. Props to him. So yeah, I mean, I felt it was really interesting to think about the aquifer. I did not know that. I knew it was tar sands oil, which is like really, really, really dirty, bad oil. But I didn't realize it was going over the largest like freshwater aquifer in the world. So that's just another reason against it. The other thing, let's see, alienating our strategic allies. Listen, Trudeau, you knew Obama and like the liberals didn't want to do it, and then you were on board with it. Like, the fact Trump got only 4 years, like you broke bread with the guy leaving the Paris climate thing, and then his predecessor came in, or his successor came in, and they just canceled it right back. Hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? Yeah, no jobs really being lost. Not a significant number. That's about it.
All right, Cypher.
So I want to start off by saying that while we all here on the panel agree that there's not many jobs, it's still jobs being lost, and we should empathize with the people that were going to be working on these rigs and doing this construction and make it clear to them that while in the grand scheme of things this might matter, it matters to them, and we have to do better on that. With that said, most of these jobs were construction jobs, and inside the Biden administration's plans for infrastructure, there's going to be a ton of infrastructure jobs that will be created, and these people will be able to work on. As far as the amount of permanent jobs were considered, it's basically people that work on the wells, and each well does not have that many people working on them. So we have to make that clear for everybody else. As far as to why Biden did cancel this, I'm going to agree with GKR. He said he was going to do it, and he did it. Promises made, promises kept, like he said. Another reason that he canceled it, and as far as the strategic places, ain't going to mess with anything. Everybody knew this was coming down the pipeline of Biden, and we're a net exporter of oil anyways at this point due to hydrofracking and energy efficiency being more driven by it. And so we're going to end up doing that more as Biden's plans come into fruition if they get through Congress with energy efficiency and that sort of thing. So it's not even going to alienate strategic partners, and it's not going to endanger us on self-sufficient either. And with that, I yield.
All right, Fananawa.
All right, so I guess I will be the one to throw the turd in the punch bowl. I'm actually
Yes.
for the pipeline, but not for the same reasons. The pipeline is actually a financial disaster. If you actually do the math on it, the cost of production for profitability for tar sands is about $89 a barrel. The cost for Saudi Arabia to produce oil profitably, I think, is like $9. And so this project was doomed to fail in the first place. But from my perspective, it was never going to take off once that actually got down to the assessments when they started production. And so this thing would have started the process of being built. They would have built the rigs in Alberta. They would have built it up and then realized it was a complete disaster financially, and they would have cut the project anyway. Because oil, like Phil said earlier, hit negative $34 on futures. And so when you have negative $34 futures versus an $89 break even versus a $9 competitor who has openly said they have thousands of oil fields they will never even tap because they don't need to, you're going to get obliterated before you touch the field. And so this was going to be a devastating financial loss for the oil industry, which I would have profiteered immensely from. Open disclosure there. Yeah, Berkshire would have taken a huge hit. I would have profiteered from that. And then additionally, if they don't get the pipeline, which is unfortunate for Phil, there's been open conversations that they'll build roads and railroads anyways. And so it's the same implications. And just like somebody else, I didn't catch who said it, the next administration is just going to shove this thing through anyways. So it's an inevitability that they're going to build this irregardless because the amount of money that Canada, specifically Alberta, thinks that they will make is so astronomical to them in terms of their white papers that they've published. They don't see the birds from the bees to the trees here. It's just a complete train wreck and clusterfuck all in one. Me personally, I don't support it from a financial perspective because it was never going to work. Financially, it's just a huge waste of capital, and I'm openly against that.
All right, you can engage.
Yeah.
Well, if I may, just a couple of things, guys. There was actually 2 years, a 2-year period where Trans-Canada, which they use that name because Canada is one of the least threatening words in all the English language. I think other than bunny and puppy, Canada. It's the least threatening word.
France. You got to include France.
Okay, I'll give you that.
France has a good military.
Curious if anybody knew that there was a 2-year period that Trans-Canada was actually 52 or 53% owned by the People's Republic of China. Now, I wonder if they would have branded it the Trans-China Pipeline if we would have had nearly the same level of support for such a pipeline. That's just one thing to keep in mind. And the big reason why they're trying to get this pipeline through is this is the big kicker. Oil, any kind of oil in the world, is worthless, worth zero until you can get it to a port. When you get it to a port, then it can be traded internationally on the markets. That's when you can even start throwing futures contracts around. And so without the ability of getting to a port, the tar sand oil really has no actual value. And they're not going to go west across the Rocky fucking Mountains. I mean, do you want to drill through mountains? No. And they're not going to go east because the further east you go, the more you get NIMBYs. So not in my backyard. I don't need to be a dick about it, but that's just the way it goes pretty much anywhere. Like it's here in the United States too. So you're not going to get it going east. It's not going that way. And so they say, well, let's have it go south to the port in Houston. And if it can get to the port at Houston, then they can trade this tar sand oil internationally on the markets. And that's when the Wall Street types start to think, hey, we can start doing futures contracts based on this. Yep. And that's where it really matters. It doesn't, like, they don't really care who gets stepped on in the middle. And now forgive my stupid illustration. I did a small illustration here for you all to show.
Could you move it up a little?
Yes, this actually happened to me one time. What you have here in the box is a pivot motor. On the other end there is a pivot. You have the ground there, and then underneath there was a natural gas pipeline. I actually was at a friend's field where we were at his pipeline, and he noticed he was having a big leakage. Where this circle is in my illustration was where he had complete crop death. There was no crops growing there because the natural gas was leaking. You could kind of smell it. You could see the soil was dead. And I was standing with him there in the field. He's got his big tank that he fills where the truck comes, fills it. And he's doing the math. Like, okay, from what I can see here, from the RPMs I'm getting and the time it's taking me to fill this tank, I'm getting about a 4% loss a year of my natural gas. And it's just in this one small spot. I think I can actually write that one off and see it through. And I don't know any other oil pipeline owner that's going to say different. If you send 1 million gallons through a pipeline and on the other end only 800,000 come out, where did the other 200,000 go? And that's the big kicker, is I've seen it myself, is that there will be a percentage that's just written off. And I don't want it to be in my field, that's for damn sure. And I yield back.
All right, Gammy, go ahead. After that, Cypher and Polar. And
I wanted to address CTV. You asked in your intro statements what we can do to prevent like another oil pipeline like this from being constructed because of how the administration just like completely reversed Obama's decision, just instituted it when Trump took office. What you can do is you need to email or call the phones or whoever your local or federal representatives are in our government, and you need to tell them that you don't like this kind of thing. Find who who represents you in your state, in the House and in the Senate, and you can prevent things like this from happening. If you get enough traction, and they can make it legal.
all right, Cypher.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Phil here, one of the main issues with oil pipelines is the fact that these oil companies have made a determination countless times that letting a leak go and paying for the cleanup costs and the amount of money to pay off governments and that sort of thing through fines is less than the amount of money they lose if they shut the pipeline off. It is not illegal for them to make that. It is not illegal for them to make that determination. They make it on their own all the time. There was an issue back, I want to say in 2010, where it leaked into several farm fields in a natural aquifer and destroyed the entire water supply for a small town, and it has still not recovered yet. Even though they've cleaned it up, there's still fish and other death that is happening in this waterway. And with the Keystone Pipeline, it is going through the Yellowstone River, as well as I think it's is it Nashville, or not Nashville, I'm sorry, is it Nebraska? They have the giant water aquifer that is also passing through because it's cheaper to go through sediment than bedrock, and that's why they're going through that through that. So we have to talk about this.
Named after the Ogallala tribe of Nebraska. I'm sorry.
And then I'll finish up slightly quickly. While it is true that overall it is less environmentally damaging for oil to transport through pipelines than it is on rail, because there's more spills on rail, the amount of damage done when it does happen is astronomical and does not usually get fixed. Whereas if it spills on rail, it's a little harder to clean up ground, but you're not destroying water as much. That I yield.
All right, Paula, and after that, CTV.
Actually, even look at the economic effects. Okay, if we want to talk about like opening up the tar sands, that shit is terrible. Okay, and like absolutely terrible. So like the NYU's law school specifically looked at the effects of what happens when this is opened up, and it looks like Earth's temperature would rise a minimum of 2 degrees Celsius, which is like crazy to think about. Oh wait. Something's going on with my computer. Sorry. So more importantly, that shit is terrible. And not only is that negative for Earth's temperature, raising it by 2 degrees Celsius, but could also permanently cut the U.S.'s GDP by like 2.5%. So like that's pretty scary to think about, and like that's also very dangerous. I think Fallen Nor is also asking the question like, how do you prevent this from like going on after we get a new president? So one of the things that we can do is popular programs don't tend to get cut because there's massive popular backlash, right? Like if I told you today that I wanted to cut Social Security, I would not win a presidential election. That shit is so unpopular. Well, if you ran on the policy of I want to cut Social Security like permanently, that's very unpopular. So what we need to necessarily do is make sure that whatever policy that goes through is positive, right? The replacement that we have for a lot of these jobs in those areas and the infrastructure being built that is in opposition to the Keystone Pipeline, and make sure that that's specifically popular. Because if it's not, then it's gonna be gone. What we need to make sure is that we have popular policy that's put in.
All right. After that, it's CTV.
Well, Fallen Nor, you laid out a lot of stuff down there, dude. I'm going to go right back to what Phil said, though, right? And I'm going to look at this from a military strategist point of view, right? Let's say I wanted to be able to enact the most amount of harm, right, with the least amount of effort, and I was at war with the United States. How might I do that? Well, if the Keystone Pipeline was sitting right there over the nation's biggest water supply, well, I think I might do that.
Bingo.
Right? Because I'm not a dumbass, and sometimes it's better for me not to have to fight the forces directly. It might be just to affect their water supply,
He's gonna blow it up right on top of Phil's farm, and he's gonna be fucking pissed.
Son of a
Phil's gonna be so fucking pissed, right? His sheep are gonna be half burnt now. He doesn't have any wool to be able to make blankets for the fucking winter, right? So, look, I get the jobs thing. After I just kept looking more and more into this thing and started thinking about it, I was like, there's already a shit ton of pipelines that can be blown up, right? But to put a new one over a water source, and not just any water source, but a pretty fucking big one, right? That's that just sounds like a bad idea from Jump Street,
It's like a circle jerk of all of us just agreeing that Biden, we're all just simping Biden. He crushed it here. Everyone's just loving Biden on this round table.
Even the far righties, even the people out in red state America were like, all right, Biden, broken watch is right twice a day. You.
Wait, what's that old saying? A blind squirrel can find a nut every once in a while.
All right, Geek had to use the Le Toilette. Fallen, you're next.
Yeah, to touch up on the Beverly Hillbillies there, bombing a pipeline on a farm is no bueno.
Flattery will get you nowhere.
How about some money? No, maybe. But everyone has a price, especially farmers. Yeah, one of the big things for me that I think would be the easiest way to push this back on is simply the numbers. It's a numbers game. Look at Reut. For those who aren't familiar with Reut, Reut was a oil company trust that was in the Permian Basin. So this is a huge oil area for the United States. It's huge on oil, makes a ton of money, massive amounts of wells. When you're hearing about oil and oil operations in America, it's very likely it's in a Permian Basin. And so when you're talking about oil, you're talking about money. You're talking about, like Phil said, futures, because that's how New York makes their money. That's how Houston makes their money. That's how the oil riggers, that's how they make their money. That's how the mudders make their money. It's all in the price of the barrel of oil. And if other places can produce it cheaper, that's where you need to be. That's where the money's at, because if it costs more to make it than it does you could sell it for, it's called a loss. And businesses don't like losses. Investors absolutely so. And if you just simply pitch that directly to the people who make those, which, by the way, they're publicly registered in case anybody wants to look. They're publicly registered people. They have to list themselves if they hold more than 10% interest in oil companies, which you can conveniently download Webull for free and search by the Oil Industry Index and find literally every major company there. And so you could very easily find these people, find who they are, find their direct mailing address and points of contact, and send them an email and write them a letter. Hey, doing business in the tar sands in Canada doesn't make money. I'm not interested in investing. There goes all their capital right out the window. You don't have to worry about it from a second play, unless Alberta's going to pay for it themselves, which they've openly said they don't have the money for. And so you could kill that for good. And it'll kill a short position for me, but I'm okay with that because I like clean water. Like, I love farmers and I like clean water because I like food and I like to drink. And I can't do either if the oil
Enjoying being
poison.
alive. What a hot take.
Whoa.
All right.
Whoa. Sorry.
I wanted to thank my French-hating co-host and Fred to Cypher.
All right. Whoa, Felonor. I thought we didn't like cancel culture. I just wanted to make that joke. Sorry.
I don't know. I think you need the money from that investment so you can get a router that doesn't need to hang on the wall behind you.
The amount of money they'd save, I could go buy Linksys. So I'm okay with that.
I mean, I think the biggest I don't know that just calling your representatives is going to make it that easy to overrule an executive order. I think that's one of the problems with partisan politics, where each time we're going back and forth between one president and the other, they're undoing what the last one did. This one is one of the more major changes that will come after the Trump presidency. I guess I don't know what they're going to do with the little bit of wall that's been built, but the Keystone Pipeline, like all that they've already put into this, to now just retract all of that and leave it there. I don't know if the farmers get their lands back, if they go pick up all of these pipes that they've already laid and or all of the digging that they've already done, if that all gets put back. Like this is a pretty major problem when it comes to one president coming in, inputting things, and then the next one coming in and undoing it, and then the next one comes in and puts it back into place. Like, I don't think it's that simple to just say we can call our representatives and make sure this doesn't happen again.
I think we could judge stuff like that not off like the process, but off like the merit. Like clearly, like Obama blocking Keystone was good, Trump unblocking it was bad, and then Biden blocking it is good. You know, I understand the process concerns in that respect, but it's like we just look at like the nature of the act itself. It's like, yeah, clearly one of these things is good and one of them is bad. So I like executive orders that do good things. I don't like ones that do bad things.
I also just wanted to say that I wasn't trying to simply say like emailing or calling your representative is like a silver bullet. It's obviously just like we don't have much bargaining power. This is all like executive orders, and unless we get either Republican or Democratic supermajority in the Congress, it's not very easy to overrule an executive order.
So I just wanted to add really quickly, and I apologize. My number was actually wrong there from Saudi Aramco. It's $5 to $6 a barrel, not $9. I apologize for that.
I just wanted to say something in response to the idea that calling your representatives doesn't really have any effect. Actually, you'd be kind of surprised. There's this weird kind of math that your representatives do. They consider one call to be representative of about 25 to 30 people. They consider one email to be representative of about 5 to 10 people. So if you actually call the office and all you do is complain, you've at least convinced them that about 30 people, this is representative of at least 30 to 40 people. So I would just give a light pushback on that, but also you're right. It's not like Dianne Feinstein's like, oh no, gracious, Joe from Sacramento, he is not at all happy with any of the things I've been doing. So yeah, I get you there, but just a little bit of a pushback and I yield back.
Where did that zip code come from? Oh, that's a Democratic zip code? Fuck them.
Any zip code, really. It's a one-party system in that state. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, we need to find something we all disagree on here. This is
these topics are
getting rough.
It's supposed to go. We're supposed to fight.
I came here to scream at people.
In 2024, it's the only choice, really. Phil KOE 2024.
You know, you say that. Hold on, you say that, but yet CTV's already running the campaign in 2024, and I've already got my VP pick. Right?
Who's the VP?
Is it
Operation Madman?
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Wait, CTV, can I take a role in your cabinet? Is that possible?
Well, you know what? The people that are going to be in my cabinet are going to be a part of the Wolf Pack. So if you want to be in the cabinet, you need to be a part of the pack, right?
Yeah,
the Wolf Pack.
Or the 1999 WCW Black and Red NWO Wolfpack. I need to know.
Ooh. See, now you're getting in it, right? Now you're getting in it.
Me and Tony G also have the Revolutionary Wrestling podcast where we get into all this stuff. So,
really?
Yeah.
Dude, Phil, me and you got to hang out, bro. Me and you got to hang out.
A Royal Rumble live review when we're done here. Revolutionary Wrestling podcast.
I have a feeling most people listening to this don't know who NWO is, though.
Yeah. So just a bit of shenanigans here, but had they taken the money allocated for Keystone Pipeline and dumped it into GameStop, they'd have over $4 trillion. I just want to go ahead and put that out there for that soundbite. They would have made more money in GameStop in one position and one play in 3 days than they would have across the entirety of the existence of the Keystone Pipeline for Canada forever.
Someone click that.
Throwing that out there.
I have something that we could probably disagree with. The GameStop situation, if we really want to do that, Geek.
I'm down.
No, I'm sorry. This is... I can't.
Or are you against it too?
I have a limit to my platforming, and the GameStop. I heard too many dumb take on this. I don't want to.
That's fair.
I don't want to say to anyone to invest. Like, I don't know. Like,
wait, let's just
I want to say.
Are the retail investors?
Raise
your hand if the answer is yes on retail.
I was just
yes.
I was just.
Wait, what did you say?
Raise your hand if retail investors are the ones getting fucked here. Yes. We got 2, 3, 4.
I mean, I think it's still bad they're being fucked by this.
Oh yeah, it's just like,
Not
they're
at the
like, hold the
moment.
line. It's like, dude.
The fun part is Robinhood's
Hold the
supposed to
line.
IPO in 2 weeks.
My
That's
issue,
where the real fun comes.
my biggest issue with the GameStop thing was that we basically had people like openly insider trading on Reddit, which is like probably illegal, and I think it's kind of unfair just to like do it that way.
It wasn't
Listen, we did the
insider
up down.
trading, but
What did you say?
We're all stupid here, so
Oh,
Yeah.
except maybe one,
I
one
mean,
guy who does
Pete,
stock trading.
Well, I mean,
You-
GKR
you said that
specifically.
there was an issue.
Well, I think,
Hold on.
I think
What?
he
Hold on.
doesn't want us talking about this so that we don't
Yeah,
accidentally
you
don't want us to talk about it.
Listen. Invest. I'm going to take the Dylan Burns stake. Invest in Team Fortress to create. That's all I have to say on this.
I don't.
Everything
understand how
else
you
is
think
bullshit.
it's I don't
Oh,
understand how you think it's a platforming issue yet. I think like wasn't Redneck planning on being on here?
oh god, that guy.
Yeah.
I think
I
it was
rather platform
misunderstood
Redneck
by-
because
by-
at least we're not risking anyone's money.
That dude is
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
I've heard so much about him. I can't wait to
Any-
meet him.
DTV, what was
You guys are
Anybody
saying you're
that makes
bringing a
financial
Redneck on, I
statements
thought
can
you
be
were talking about
sued.
me.
So
Yeah.
it's an issue.
We're not going to talk about anything LGBT related, so yeah,
Oh,
I
God
don't
bless
have a problem with that.
Wait,
God bless you,
So
out of
Geek-
this room. The hardest thing to do the minute you say, we're not talking about this. Rebel, we all want to talk about it. Like, God bless you. This you got to take Job, sir.
CTV, did you have a question? Sorry. I thought you addressed something to me. I don't remember what it was. Or I didn't hear it.
Oh, yeah. When you said that we're all idiots here, I was just going to tell you to make sure you speak for yourself.
Yeah. Holy shit.
So I do have one piece. I think that would be an interesting conversation. The recent information released by the officials overseeing Gitmo in regards to the terrorist that's linked to running the attack on 9/11. The cost of supporting that individual so far is reportedly at $168 million to support one person since we've had him. What are
you talking
y'all's
about-
thoughts?
Oh, okay. You're talking about them being contained at Gitmo, not
Yeah, that
okay.
one person. That one person's cost is $168 million.
My
All right.
thought,
That sounds incredibly high.
Real quick. Sorry. Yeah, I think this topic is like I think we all agree on pretty much.
Yeah, 9/11 is bad. Hot take.
Yeah, so let's do closing statement, and after that, I think like if you want to talk about it, if you want to talk about like other stuff, I know that Danabo is hosting basically a call-in show that will happen in this Discord, so you don't have anything to do. You don't even have to leave or anything. Everything will happen here. So yeah, let's go into closing statement, and if you want to stay, if you want to leave, that's fine. But yeah. Anyway, let's go into closing statement and start by CTV.
Well, environmentally speaking, for the Keystone Pipeline, I'm glad that it's not going to be a thing. I wasn't initially, especially with regard to COVID. A lot of my concerns were specifically with regard to the economy. But the more and more that I look into the environmental impacts of this particular project, it just doesn't make any sense, right? Not from a national defense standpoint, not from a logistical standpoint, and not from an environmental standpoint. Because if there are already a majority of pipes that are running in a specific direction, I don't feel like that this one is the one to break the mold and then just continue to further lessen the amount of land that we're using for farming purposes, right? So I like the environment. I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, so you'll always find me on the side of the environment with regards to those sorts of things. That being said, as far as energy moving forward in the future, I think that the number one thing that any of us that are participating at this type of level, with regard to actually having our voices be heard, is to make sure that we're communicating to everyone else about what is great about nuclear energy and its ability to be able to generate lots of electrical power, right, for minimal risk associated, right? And everybody's going to point to Chernobyl, you're going to point to Fukushima, but there are a lot of applications for nuclear power that you may or may not be aware of. As a matter of fact, there's some new technologies coming on board with regard to smaller reactors that I think that a lot of people would find very interesting, and I can honestly say that I would much rather go that route than the wind vane route, because again, with regard to the environment, those big ass props and wind vanes spinning in the air do a lot to disrupt migratory birds. So if you actually care about the environment, you'll be against that. So lots of things to discuss. I'm glad that I was on the panel tonight. I hope that all of y'all had a good time. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And definitely look forward to talking to all of y'all again in the future. Phil, we definitely got to get together. And Polar, we still have a conversation due. We still haven't had that one.
But I am muted real quick. But yeah.
You know what? That's a great point. CTV, that conversation is actually really interesting. If you want to have it anytime this week, I'd actually be down. It's a very cool
Sounds good.
conversation.
Well, and as a matter of fact, since we're doing the outros too, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you can find me Monday to Thursday. I do what I'm calling the conservative evening stream. We got a lot of great moderators over there that are instructed not to ban, but to delete and time out. But I'm telling you, like, the line is getting real thin whenever it comes to people jumping in there and just saying dumb shit right off the bat. So if the hammer comes down, you probably earned it, right? So with that being said, Polar, anytime between 8 p.m. and 12 is when I'll be on. So just shoot me a message during that time. Anybody else? Phil, Fallenor, you've already been there. But anybody else, you guys want to come by and have a conversation, just shoot a message in the Discord. I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys about whatever you want to talk about.
All right. Twitch.tv/critically thinking veteran. Go check him out. And yeah. Let's try to Polar.
Yeah. So my position on this is it was probably a good thing for him to halt construction. It's a right direction. When it's a step in the right direction when it comes to having much more energy efficient technology as well as much more environmentally friendly technology. I think we all agreed on that aspect. Keeping this pipeline going forward would not only actually have a negative impact on our GDP, but also result in massive amounts of unemployment in comparison to what we initially thought would happen as a result of canceling the Keystone Pipeline. Other than that, you can come check me on my channel, twitch.tv/PolarsWorld, fellow member of the future. This is really fun. Good to see some new faces. I'm streaming right now. But if you guys have not, go sub to Mr. Geek. Okay, Mr. Geek puts in a lot of work on stream and off stream. I mean, he streams a lot. So if anyone needs support, it's Mr. Geek to help keep this going.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank someone who just donated. Thank you, Save Dan. Yeah, thank you for the support tonight. Y'all have been amazing. And yeah, I want to afraid to Phil.
Oh, folks, thank you all for joining us this evening here on the Hippy Dippy podcast. It has been an amazing time this evening. I was glad to share my thoughts with you about the Keystone XL pipeline and give you some of my real world experience so we could kind of pull this out of the abstract. And I was glad to get some feedback from all of you. I had a wonderful time. I am Phil KOE of KOE Nation on YouTube. You can check me out here very shortly over at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast over on YouTube, where Tony G, me, and Chicken are going to be giving our review of the Royal Rumble. But folks, not only that, I mean, come on, critically thinking veteran, conservative evening stream, Polaris World, all the wonderful people that were here. But most importantly, Dylan Burns TV, what are you doing not following that guy? Come on. It's irresponsible of you at this point, folks. I mean, come on. What are you doing? It's the place to be. It's the place you gotta go. But folks, I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil Cayley, signing off and handing it off to all of my indomitable broadcast partners. Rest of the room, take it away.
Holy crap. You've been amazing, Phil. So yeah, I am pretty sure we will see you in the main show. I hope so. I want to pray to Gami.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm really glad Pipeline is canceled. Thank you guys for having me on the show, and write to your local political representative, both federal, local, and on the state level. You can get a lot done with this kind of thing, even if it doesn't seem like it.
All right. You want to shout yourself out?
Oh, yeah. Twitch.tv/GammyOfficial is mine. That's GAMI official. It's the other way around, official Gami on Twitter, and I have a YouTube that's linked on my Twitch too. I'd love to be checked out by anyone.
Don't be such a fucking dude. All right. So I'm going to throw it to Tom.
Yeah, I mean, we all agree on the Keystone Pipeline. It was a bad idea from the beginning. It's good that hopefully farmers and Native Americans will get their lands back, and hopefully we'll be moving towards more renewable energy sources instead of oil in the future. Yeah, my name's Tom. I go by Tom Foolery. I stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Twitch is growing pretty quick, actually. I think I've been on there like 3 weeks, and we're about to hit 100 followers now. So I just got affiliate as well. So yeah, it's moving pretty quick. Most of the people on here have actually been on there with me a couple of times. So you can find it at twitch.tv/TomFooleryPC. And then well, yeah, that's it, I guess.
Yeah, go check out Tom Foolery. That's how we found Phil. That's how we found Tom. He hosts a panel from time to time. Do you have a specific day, or is it just something you do?
Yeah, I stream every Wednesday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern time with my co-host Kay Fellows, and then we have like open panels towards the end. And I normally literally every day I'll stream pretty late at night, getting on at like 1 a.m. and streaming until about 8 a.m. as well. So
yeah, really nice. Let's throw it to CSP Cypher.
Well, I think everybody here made the point that the Keystone Pipeline being canceled is good. I'd just like to reiterate that the questions that we were asked, whether it will destroy thousands of jobs, risking energy self-efficiency, and alienating our strategic partners, are all false. So with that said, I'll go into who I am, and thank you, everybody. So Mr. Geeks, Danbo, and Dylan Burns, thank you so much for having me on your show. This was fantastic. The Hippy Dippy podcast is great, and the Hippy Dippy podcast Recuritment was great fun. I hope everybody that is watching us tonight learned a ton of information and was entertained at the same time. If you want to follow me or like what I did, go ahead and hit me up at Crowdsourced Politics. That's with an ED. On Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We will be hosting these kind of round panels as well as individual debates because we are a crowdsourced community, which means we want you to be part of us. So thank you again so much for having me on here, and I hope everybody has a great night after this.
All right. Faleno.
All right. So I could say again, like everybody else does, Keystone Pipeline, just a train wreck. Like I was sitting here listening to everybody talk. Like I did the math really quick. The allegations: 52,000 jobs, $6 billion in wages over time. I did the math: 20% undershoot on project calculations. You could actually take the money from the 6.48 billion that they would spend on the pipeline, just give these people free money for life, and then take another 480 million and build a casino town in Canada because they love to gamble so much. So we can go ahead and just call it square there. And then we maintain that relationship because now they have a Vegas of their own, which is fantastic. They don't have to travel as much. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's a disaster. Just like with CTV said, I'm all for nuclear. Much cleaner alternative. Doesn't take farmland from farmers, which pisses me off more than anything else. Anybody taking from farmers, I just want to punch them in the face. I hate people that take from farmers. They work hard. They get paid shit. They get shit on. And they have to deal with actual shit every day. And it's just not okay. And so not even from the money perspective, if they were given money, whether it's an easement or eminent domain or whatever, the probably shitty tactic they were going to use to take the land in the first place, it was never going to be in their favor. The numbers don't work out. The math doesn't work out. The business logic doesn't work out. Nothing in this even comes close to making sense. Definitely not from a speculations perspective for futures. Futures in oil won't recover for decades to come. So I don't know where any of this point where the Keystone Pipeline actually went through anyone with actual business sense, but clearly they must have talked to some economists because the numbers just don't add up. But they did congressional math anyways. So that's my piece on it. For social medias, I will be, I guess, in the near future, starting to do some kind of wealth management thing online for stock trading as well, and advice in that arena. But for right now, I still want to share charity near and dear to my heart, Able Gamers. Look them up on Twitch, ABLE Gamers, run by an incredible gentleman. It's an incredible community. They do amazing things for people that are access challenged, and they've been able to make waves in the gaming industry to change things to make it to where people can, of any condition physiologically, can play video games and do the things that we love every day. So I openly recommend you go take a look at them instead of me. I'll always be here, but they definitely deserve better coverage.
Okay, I have a question for you, Fallen.
Yeah.
You own a lot of businesses, buy businesses, and hire a lot of people, right? Give people jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to go into too much detail, but like, how many businesses do you own or have sold, or like,
81. It's my current count.
Wow, that's a lot
my
of
current
businesses. Why can't you get a Blue Yeti?
A Blue Yeti. That's like the little microphone thing, right? So
Yeah, good one.
Hold on.
I actually asked about that. So I've got like 5 headsets. I've got this one and several others, and I'm trying through headset after headset to find out which one works best for me.
Okay,
'cause I want a lot.
follow. Listen,
Headsets
listen.
suck.
Right, straight up. Do not use a headset mic. Right,
Yeah.
just don't. Right now, this right here, right, is going to be the exact same mic that Tom is showing you over there. Right, this is right here. You can get this at Walmart. Right, like just go to Walmart, get you a Blue Yeti, and be done with this whole crackly. Sounding like I'm coming in from like a space station, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that I'm having to connect to a satellite to be able to connect to you on Jupiter, right? Like, and then by the time the signal gets here, I'm sitting here going, what the fuck did he just say? Right? Because you make a lot of good points, bro, but the mic quality, bro.
Yeah. I somebody actually shared with me a mic, and I was looking at it. It was some like XLR, ASLR, some shit like that. I don't do audio, never have in my career. Closest thing I ever did was VTC, and so like I never messed with mics.
Welcome one and all to the Hippy Dippy microphone and headphone talk, guys. Like here. This is the most top of the line microphone headphone talk you're gonna find anywhere online. Here at Hippy Dippy. So,
All right.
This commercial brought to
real
you
quick,
by Blue Yeti.
I want to throw it to GKR, and after that we can go and start miming. But yeah,
I
GKR, go
got
ahead.
Dylan Bird's prop on that long con of just setting you up to make fun. Oh, how many businesses do you own? Oh, that many businesses, and you can't get a yet. Oh man. Okay, so hey, thanks for inviting me on. I had a really good time. I wish our conservatives here were a little more combative. You're all just loving Biden over here. I mean, respect giving. Not as like enabling.
Oh, you must have forgot round one.
Give us time.
GKR,
Yeah.
you must have forgot round one. Right? Round one.
I
right?
erased that from my mind. That was a journey.
Of course you did, because you lost so bad in that round. You were like, Jesus, how the fuck can I make it up from here? Because the conservative main boss.
You have to run all the way to like sexual assault
and then
for Biden not wearing a mask.
We're gonna leave that one alone.
I'm gonna come on your channel for that thing, and we're gonna argue about stuff.
Hey, come on, man. As a matter of fact, I hate to do this, but the pack wants my attention, so I'm jumping over to talk to the pack here for a little bit. Mr. Geek, thanks for having me on, brother. I always love being here for not only you, but Danabo, and of course, Mr. Dylan Burns TV, the king of Twitch politics, right? Who's hosting the best roundtable on Twitch, right? By far the best moderator on Twitch, right? It's and I will say this, it is specifically because of Dylan Burns' moderating style, right? That has even given conservatives like a way to be able to get into a conversation that is somewhat genuine, right? All of the other moderators that are out there, and there's quite a few of them, right? Only cater to their lefty audience and don't bother trying to hear both sides of it or even going into that, which is why I respect the shit out of what Mr. Dylan Burns is doing, which is also why it must be pointed out that he's a shaman wolf. He's a shaman wolf in CTV's wolf pack. So with that being said, everybody, appreciate you guys having me. I'm ducking out. Phil, I want to see you over here sometime. Polar, GKR, Cypher, Gammy, everybody. Y'all want to come over? Love to talk to you.
Yeah, GKR, that kind of
real quick
proves that
before
us right wingers.
Before everyone leave, I just want to say I'm going to raid into Danabo and Nasdaq, who is going to host like a call-in program. So if you feel like you have a little bit more fight left in you, stay tuned. Like basically, stay in this channel, and we'll go in this. I'm going to say goodbye to my chat, but thank you everyone for being here. Take care, and I hope to see you.
Hey, Phil. I make content about criminal justice related stuff.
Oh,